Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome on behalf of the Europeana Foundation to the first day of the Heritage Horizons Europeana Project Week. My name is Lorena Aldana. I am the Head of External Relations and Advocacy at the Europeana Foundation, and I am very happy to be your facilitator for the day. As you know, today and throughout the project week, we will put the spotlight on the diverse and innovative projects that are enriching the common European data space for cultural heritage, which is being deployed by the Europeana initiative, and on how they enrich the cultural heritage ecosystem as a whole. Today, in particular, we will showcase how these projects are contributing to advance the social, green, and digital interconnected transformations of the cultural heritage sector. So we are very excited to kick off this event, and we look forward to enriching discussions and also to collaborations ahead. Before we dive into the program, I would just like to share a couple of housekeeping rules, as you can see on screen. Please keep your digital program close by, because there's all the information that you need is there. My colleagues will share it again in the chat, so you have it handy. Please name yourself with your first and last name as username, so that we can know who you are if you wish at your organization as well. And importantly, mute your microphone if you're not speaking to avoid background noise, and feel free to keep your camera on throughout the program. We also encourage you to use the chat to share your thoughts and comments and questions. And please note that some parts of the meeting are being recorded. Last but not least, we remind you of the Europeana's inclusive engagement guidelines, which you see on screen, to which we adhere as a community, and we encourage inclusive conversation and collaboration throughout the meeting. My colleagues will share the full guidelines in the chat. If there is something you would like to flag to the Europeana staff, please contact us via direct message, and we will be very happy to help you. At the end of the meeting, you will see a pop-up satisfaction survey, so please take a moment to complete it, as your insights matter to us and will help us also enhance our events in the future. So we've put together a rich program for today, and it will be structured as follows. We will first have a welcome address by the Europeana Foundation, followed by a presentation on the Common European Data Space for Cultural Heritage and Political Guidelines by the European Commission to sort of set the scene for the day. And then we will explore the European Heritage Hub project through 2 different sessions. First, the Heritage Dialogue, Cultural Heritage for a Regenerative Digital Transition in EU neighboring countries, followed by a project presentation afterwards. We will then close the day with a networking opportunity, so please stay with us through. So without further ado, I would like to warmly welcome Valentine Charles, who is our Data Service Director at the Europeana Foundation, for a welcome address and official opening of the project week. Valentine, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lorena. Good morning, dear colleagues. Welcome to the Heritage Horizon Europeana Project Week. I'm really happy to see so many of you joining us for this special week. I know it's Monday morning, maybe it's still gray where you are, so I would like to start this very rich week by first asking you to think about your latest project experience. What was the topic? Were you there as a contributor? Were you participating to it? And what was the emotion associated to your collaboration as part of the project? Was it the adrenaline or the rush associated with a project submission deadline? We know those, they are always very particular. Or was it the joy of getting your first data out or launching the first prototype of a tool? or was it just being together with colleagues from all over Europe? So don't be shy, share your experience, think about it. I want to start getting into the spirit of this week. I'm sure you are thinking about it, and I can feel how activated you are getting. So, trying to switch to the next slide. Yeah. So yeah, it's what just the project do to us. They bring us together and they make us colleagues, and that is very important. They allow small and large institutions to come together to work on specific topic for cultural heritage, and they bring a various range of expertise. So I hope throughout the week that you will keep feeling this idea of coming together and being together with colleagues and sharing experience. Most importantly, projects are always supporting in fulfilling our aspiration for the cultural heritage sector and for Europe, whether it's about protecting our values, spearheading innovation, or making our infrastructure more robust. Projects also support Europe's triple transition in making digital culture available as a public good in the most sustainable and inclusive way. And today you will hear more about the triple transition. Week, you will hear about many different topics, ranging from the social green and digital transformation, going into 3D, then talking about reuse, and lastly about AI. All these topics are very important for the data space for cultural heritage, which is an initiative currently stewarded by the Europeana Initiative and 18 consortium members. And those projects are crucial to make us advance on all these topics that I have listed. It is vital that such projects continue to receive investment, especially as the Digital Europe program work plan is currently being shaped. And as the discussion on the upcoming Europe's multi-annual financial framework also evolves. So that it's important to keep this in mind. Lastly, during this week, we also want to present you with an ecosystem. First, there is the ecosystem of the data spaces where the Common European Data Space for Cultural Heritage sits. So there are many initiatives, other data space initiatives around us, and you will hear this week about the different projects, data space supporting projects that helps the data space to explore and fulfill activities in the different topics I have mentioned. And much broader, it's about another ecosystem, the digital cultural heritage ecosystem, where there are many other initiatives that are contributing to all the aspirations I have listed, such as the Common Cultural Heritage Cloud or the Heritage Hub you will hear about today. This large ecosystem of projects is supported by the European Commission, and I think it's important to recognize the support of the EU in making all these projects possible and also allowing this sector to advance on many different aspects. So I want to thank you to being here and to stay with us for the rest of the week, and I wish you a very fruitful week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentin, for this clear presentation on Europeana's aspirations and visions for the data space and how the project week also fits into that vision. I'd like to now invite our next speaker, Fulgencio San Martin, who is a policy officer at the Directorate General for Communications, Network Content and Technology at the European Commission, who will present the Common European Data Space for Cultural Heritage political guidelines. Very welcome, Fulgencio. The floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself, but the button had disappeared when I requested control. So thank you all for being here. So projects have been, will continue to be strategically very important for the development of this, our digital cultural heritage ecosystem. So thank you here to the Europeana Foundation for organizing this, and thank you all for attending. For over 15 years, the Commission has undertaken policy, coordination, and funding actions to support the digitization, the online access to cultural material and digital preservation. And digital transformation is at the heart of the Commission policies. We are now transitioning to a new College of Commissioners and to new priorities. But shaping the digital future continues to be a key priority. Now, the new political guidelines were disclosed last September by the President von der Leyen, and for the first time there was a direct reference to cultural heritage. She made it clear we must make cultural heritage access easier, especially to younger generations. And here we understand accessibility not only in the usual way, so to everyone with different abilities, but also accessibility in the new ways of reusing cultural heritage data, particularly interactive technologies and virtual worlds. So then President von der Leyen structured her cabinet, and she published mission letters to the future commissioners of her college with some more information spread in at least 2 areas. Please note that the commissioners are not yet approved, but the hearings have finished, and probably this week or the latest next week, beginning of December, they will be approved as commissioners. So on the one side, we will very likely have Mrs. Virkkunen as Commissioner for Tech Sovereignty, Security and Democracy. In the letter, President von der Leyen wrote that Virkkunen will, and I quote, lead work on boosting artificial intelligence innovation, making it safer and more trustworthy. And also she should intensify our efforts and investments concerning the next wave of frontier technologies. So it is all about new and advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence. Not last, the new European Data Union strategy. She will be in charge of that, and also she will be taking over of reaching the digital decade targets. Then we will also have Commissioner Mikalev in charge of fairness, youth, culture and sport. Don't be fooled because he comes from a small country, from Malta. Don't be fooled because he is the youngest commissioner so far, because he demonstrated in the hearings to be very much aware of what is in front of him. President von der Leyen asked him in the letter to work with Commissioner Virkkunen in, quote, developing an artificial intelligence strategy for cultural and creative industries. So these are the 2 commissioners with whom we will be working for. Now, concerning the funding, I'm afraid that at this moment we don't have any calls open for Digital for Culture in the digital program. We do have something in the European Commission, though, in the Horizon Europe program. There are 5 calls currently open. You have them on the screen, but they are in a different DG and we are not in charge of them. So please access the Funding and Tenders portal. If we get any extra funding soon, we will publish it there. I'm afraid that I cannot answer questions on these 5 calls because we are not in charge of them. What I can do is to present you here my slides from the webinar that the colleagues from the Commission who are in charge of these calls held last September. There, my slides, I talk about the future of the data space and the cloud, how they should be and how they are expected. Now, I want to be very clear about this. This is what I'm going to present in the next slides are not policy, not yet. They are the conclusions that we got after the meetings with member states representatives, and they made very, very clear what I'm about to explain. So that is why this should be taken as our objectives, as our wish list that we will be pushing for. So mainly the main idea is that we need to coordinate the data space and Europeana. We don't want them to do another Europeana all from scratch. So in that sense, they said that museums, and there I mean experts working for museums, and that is really you. So you would not want to ingest your data twice, because that takes a lot of work and creates a lot of errors. You would want a single place to ingest data. Likewise, you would like a single login for reusing the data, for using the tools, for uploading the data, not needing to decide where should I go in order to upload this data set, etc. Also, once the data is there, you want it to be digitally preserved as far as it is possible with persistent identifiers and not losing any data, and keeping versions and not losing any data again. Also, you would want not to work with the specifics to dataset. You would want interoperable vocabularies. You would want ontologies that can be coordinated with each other. So again, these are not written in stone, but we will be fighting for them. So from the Commission, so from our point of view, and also from the member states' point of view, we are eager to get the new tools of the cloud, to see how they can contribute to 3D, concretely to the recommendation targets. Very ambitious targets, we know, we are aware of that. In the recommendation, the member states committed to support and contribute to the data space. You remember the big event that we had with ministers and the commissioner earlier this year, where they all committed to these objectives, and we are looking forward to see how the cloud can contribute. Now, capacity building has been one of the most successful parts of the data space of Europeana so far. And in the coming future, we would like the training offer to be expanded in the data space with a curriculum with focus in different audiences, not only museums, but any other domains that can use the data. On the other side, the cloud is expected to address universities, research, science experts in cultural heritage, and we really hope that the training offer should be compatible and complementary to the data space. All this can only come with a future coordinated governance, but as written in their call, the cloud governance would only be established in 2027, so we will be waiting for them because they are not yet ready, and we will be really trying to coordinate with them the initiatives to a common or at least coordinated governance. That was all. As usual, please note that all images used here are available to be reused in the Europeana website, and I invite you to do the same.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fulgencio, for sharing the ambitions and the political priorities of the new Commission for the next 5 years. I can say on behalf of the sector that we are very much looking forward to start the collaboration with Commissioner-designate Virkkunen following her official appointment, as well as with Commissioner Mikalev. Thank you also for outlining the opportunities for cooperation between the cloud and the data space. I just want to remind you that this Friday, as part of the project week, we will also hear from ECHOS, which is the project that is entrusted with establishing the infrastructure and governance of the cloud. So please do join us to learn more about it this Friday. I think we have some room for questions, and I see there's already one question on the chat from Olga Tikhonova, asking for links. Of course, Olga, we will share that. Fulgen, would you like to?
Yeah, as I said,
jump in?
Thank you, Olga. As I said, the governance will not start before 2027, and probably the project will not start before 2028. So basically, what I said is that I really hope that in 2028 or in 2029, when the project is already running, that you will not need such a link. The idea is that you will not need such a link, so that the heritage twin 3D models, you would upload them the same way that you do to the data space, to Europeana and the data space, and then it will be available also in the cloud. That's as simple as that. So the cloud doesn't exist yet, but when it starts in 2028, 2029, we hope that it will be coordinated with the data space.
Thank you very much, Fulgencio. Do we have other questions from the room? I do have a question. Otherwise, maybe our colleagues are still, getting ready to share their thoughts, whether via the chat or just questions and comments. But Fulgencio, so you were addressing the cloud and the data space being compatible and complementary, and of course in terms of governance as well. And I'm wondering if you could share a bit more about the technical interoperability. We've seen Valentin has shown at the beginning of her presentation these two ecosystems, the cultural heritage sector ecosystem and also the data space ecosystem. So it's a sort of two layers of cooperation. So how is the Commission envisioning this technical interoperability between the cloud, the data space, and eventually, as next step, of course, other initiatives and data spaces?
Okay, I will put the example of the 3D because it's the thing that we are talking the most this last year, also because of the Twinit event. So for example, with 3D, the question when you are digitizing something in 3D is how you are doing it, because depending on how you are doing it and the technique that you use, you will be able to do some things with it or some other things. We are aware that the public of the cloud and the public of the data space are different. So in principle, and this is all theory, really. Okay, so please follow with me, I will come to it. So in theory, the data space is used by museums and by citizens, while the cloud will be used mainly by researchers, universities, etc. But we know that many people, including many people attending today, are working for both, or are working in museums, in universities, or are working for universities that are working with museums. We know that. And there, the only thing that we can do is to get a good coordination at the highest level, and to be sure that at the low level, at the technical level, the interoperability, that we are covering all use cases. And there, if a university needs there is not the same level of detail for a 3D model for reconstructing Notre Dame done for putting a model of Notre Dame, be it in the Twinit campaign, wasn't in the Twinit campaign, be it on the website or in the data space or in Sketchfab, let's say. And certainly Sketchfab is another problem that I would like to talk about and that is discussed this week. Because we should move away from a private company as the industry de facto standard. But as I was saying, the interoperability, not only with vocabularies interoperability, semantic interoperability at the low level with both, as I said, but also with the 3D models, that we should be scanning at the highest level of detail possible, and then using a downgradation, let's say, for using it in the lowest level reuses. But for the researchers and for the reconstruction and so on, we will need the highest level possible. So the interoperability, the technical interoperability, we will be, let's say, delegating in the experts, and there we have a lot of trust in the expertise of the Europeana Foundation with the EDM, with the vocabularies, etc. And if there is anything missing, we are really waiting for the cultural heritage institutions to contribute to this. Also concerning 3D, I would like to say that this week there is a presentation. I know that you have a presentation about the Competence Center for 3D. The contract is not yet signed as I am talking, but I can tell you that this morning, not less than 1 hour and a half ago, I gave green light to this signature after being asked by the budget unit. So it is okay for us, and it will be signed probably today or tomorrow at the latest. So that is another point for the actually technical interoperability. It will be a good point for a good new cultural heritage institution to help CHIs with this technical interoperability. I see that there is another question.
Thank you very much, Fulgencio. So a couple of points before we move to the next question. Indeed, tomorrow, Tuesday, we will be dedicating the day of the project week to 3D. So this discussion will continue. Thank you also for addressing how technical interoperability between the cloud and the data space will also be secured through the Europeana frameworks and all this collective knowledge that we already have available. And my next point, which is actually indeed about Sketchfab, which relates to the portfolio of the commissioner designate, was really focusing on competitiveness and how competitiveness is the one of the highest priorities of the new commission, and how this should also be reflected in terms of provisions of tools and services that are based in Europe as well. So I will now take another question from the floor. I've been uploading 3D photogrammetry compact to the platform. They have been really welcoming and helpful. This is Gemma Grueso sharing her experience in the chat. Would you like to react, Fulgencio, or anybody else who has a question?
Yeah, please. I would like to be very clear about this. I know that the Sketchfab is very easy. That's why there are a lot of museums and all kinds of institutions uploading data there. Totally okay. I'm very happy that it works, and it is the industry de facto standard for 3D. Totally agree. Yeah, but what happens, we are talking about a private company. What happens if tomorrow they decide to charge or they decide to remove, or they decide to change, or they decide to reuse without permission, or what happens if they decide whatever? The jurisdiction there is not the European Union. If they decide to remove or to sell your data, it's their decision, it's their jurisdiction, and it is a private company which is not even one of these 405.3 whatever NGOs that exist in the US. So it is a private company and it is looking for profit. And whatever they can do to get more profit, they will do. So we have a huge issue of technical sovereignty here with Sketchfab, and we need to move away from it as soon and as far as possible. That is everything that I can say. I know that is the industry standard, but we cannot rely on a private US company for our technical sovereignty. We are talking about preserving our digital heritage. And the 3D models cannot rely on a private company. We have to talk a lot about this. Probably this just deserves a whole workshop ahead of it. But I wanted to be very clear. That is our position. And I think everyone's position in the union.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fulgencio. Do we have any other questions or comments? I'm just going through the chat. So I think, yes, this has been very clear and very useful. Yes, Fulgen, I see you want to say something.
No, I just wanted to say that I will be around for as much as I can, given other points in my agenda, and I will try to answer in the chat. I see that there is a question about colonial shared heritage, but I would like Olga to explain a bit more what she means about colonial shared heritage, because I have a personal opinion on this. But the personal opinion doesn't mean that it is the official opinion of the European Union. So I would like to be more precise.
Olga, could you please take the floor and give a bit more context?
Okay, and the other way around. Well, actually, this is a very complicated matter. I've been recently to the British Museum. I've been to the Ruhr Museum, Central African Museum in Belgium. I've been to many museums in the Union that are exposing African objects. So that is the other side of the medal. So heritage in Indonesia built by European Union, that belongs, as far as I know, to Indonesia, and it is their ownership and it is up to them. So as far as I don't have an answer to that. I'm very sorry, Olga. That's all I can say for the moment. If there is a more precise question, what should we do with that heritage? It is really up to them, really. It doesn't belong to us. If Sketchfab is not a platform, what do you recommend for putting your 3D models online? There is no alternative right now, and that is what is bothering me, really. I would like to have something alternative in the Union, hosted in a data center in the Union. But right now, as far as I know, there is no a very good alternative. We will be looking for them. We are working on them, and there are at least 2 or 3 alternatives that I can think of, but I rather not say, because we are far from Sketchfab, and I would like to have a good alternative. So right now we don't.
Thank you, Fulgencio, and I think Commissioner Virkkunen will be also looking at this, as you said, as a matter of sovereignty and independence from profit organizations that are based outside of Europe. I am looking for other questions and comments in the chat. We have a question from Finland, Ismo Malinen. In Finland, we can publish 3D models on Fina and through our national aggregator, the National Library, .eu, but we are still using Sketchfab as it accepts larger 3D files. Alexandru from 5D Culture also shares that they have started to provide alternatives to Sketchfab, and they will share more during their own presentation this Thursday.
Looking forward to them. Yeah, maybe it's tomorrow, Alexandru? I didn't know about Finland. That is good to know. And actually, I'm going to start to write down some of the alternatives that we have. So thank you very much for the information. I know of other two. One of them was 5D Culture. Thank you. So that is one of the things that they had in mind, but they have other two. I'd rather not disclose because it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense. We are far from Sketchfab, and we need to close the gap right now.
Perhaps Ismo, if you would like to share with colleagues a bit more of the Finnish experience, I think that would be useful. We still have some time for discussion. So Ismo, if you're with us, I see you.
Yes. Yeah, so very shortly. So yes, we can publish this small size, low resolution 3D models on Finna, but as the size is quite limited, we still publish them on Sketchfab, and I too think that this is a problem because Sketchfab is quite expensive for even us, and I think for small museums it can be a problem. If you want to publish larger volumes of 3D models on Sketchfab, it can be expensive. And of course, it was really good that our national aggregator managed to solve these problems, and now we can publish these. They can publish our 3D models. So far, we have only twice published on this Twinit campaign, but hopefully later more and more will be published on European as well. At the moment, we have published only about 30 3D models on Finna, but well, there will be more. Yeah, so very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ismo. Thank you also, Fulgencio, for being with us today, for your presentation. So we will hear more from 5D Culture and some alternatives to Sketchfab on Wednesday during Alexandru's presentation. And I think tomorrow during the panel discussion on 3D as well, this topic will be addressed. And so, yeah, we hope to see all of you then as well. I am now very pleased to kick off the European Heritage Hub session, part 1, with the Heritage Dialogues, Cultural Heritage for a Regenerative Digital Transition in EU neighboring countries. So this event is organized by the Europeana Foundation and our partners and colleagues at Europa Nostra on behalf of and in collaboration with the European Heritage Hub Consortium. You will learn more about this project later today during a dedicated presentation. But for now, we will start with the Heritage Dialogues, which is the second in a series of 6, and we'll explore how digital transformation anchored in values of social and environmental responsibility, can empower the cultural heritage sector in EU neighboring countries to thrive and to fulfill its public mission. It will highlight the opportunities for pan-European cooperation in digital transformation beyond the frontiers of the European Union current membership. These heritage dialogues will showcase in particular how cultural heritage stakeholders across the pan-European community are embracing the challenges and opportunities of Europe's digital, social, and green transformations. And we will focus specifically on the efforts of our peers and colleagues in Ukraine, Moldova, the Western Balkans, and the Caucasus, which are important partners in the European Heritage Hub project. This is with the aim of creating new connections and strengthening new ones between the EU and its immediate neighbors. So I would like to invite Sophie Thijs to take the floor for her welcoming remarks. Among other things, Sophie is the Vice Chair of the European Network Association Management Board, and she also serves as the Chair of the European Initiative Working Group to support the digital cultural heritage of Ukraine. Thank you for being with us, Sophie, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lorena. Can you first let me know if you hear me all right?
Yes, we see you and hear you perfectly.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. It's really my pleasure and my honor to be welcoming you to this Heritage Dialogues webinar in the scope of the Heritage Horizons Project Week. These events come at a truly pivotal moment in the evolution of our digital cultural heritage, because that little part right there, the digital, is not just changing how we preserve and share collections. It's transforming how we connect across borders, how we learn from one another, how we build resilience together. As we stand at this very outset of a week of conversations with and around projects that are constantly pushing back the horizon of what digital cultural heritage means, I want you to take a minute and think about this. Digital transformation, it might seem like a technical challenge, but can we actually think of it as a societal opportunity instead? Let me share a powerful example on the next slide, please. In Ukraine, even amid the devastation of war, cultural institutions are working tirelessly to digitize and protect their heritage. They're not just preserving buildings and artifacts, they're safeguarding their nation's soul and spirit. Through our working group supporting the digital cultural heritage of Ukraine, and in the scope of that working group, our activities furthering 3D digitization in Ukraine, examining establishment of a dedicated Ukrainian aggregator, and offering support to the Hatathon initiative, of which you will hear more from the next speaker, we are seeing and experiencing firsthand how digital projects become instruments of resilience and change. My pitch this morning isn't just about Ukraine, though, even though we are massively leaping forwards in establishing a network there, as you could see on the next slide. These are some of our Ukrainian network members and a special corner in which, during the Europeana Conference of 2023, in which we gathered with many supporters of the work of our colleagues there in a dire situation. Now, let me move quickly beyond Ukraine, because in other neighboring countries too, we see a proliferation of initiatives in the digital sphere. Across the Western Balkans, for instance, we are witnessing a remarkable enthusiasm for digital transformation. Let's take Serbia. Serbia is already contributing data to Europeana, while Albania, as well as Serbia, already have members in the ENA. Our friends in the country group representing Slovenia are already reaching out to countries like Armenia and Northern Macedonia, showing how one active network node can spark many more. These neighboring countries are already more than contributors. They are active participants in our network. This organic growth of our community beyond European borders shows how cultural collaboration naturally transcends borders. The path that we are forging isn't just about turning physical artifacts into digital files. It's about crafting a future where technology serves both the people and the planet, boosting the triple transition. Whenever we partner with neighbors, from the streets of Tirana to the archives of Sarajevo, we are weaving something remarkable, a tapestry of shared knowledge, sustainable practices, and lasting relationships. With every connection that we make, every project that we launch, we add another thread to an emerging pattern. The examples that I give here are not isolated success stories. They really are proof of what is possible when we invest in not only talking the talk, but actually walking the walk. Setting up pilots, sometimes starting out very, very small, but always aiming high and thinking big. Yet as we begin these heritage dialogues, I challenge us all to think even bigger. Let's ask ourselves some stringent questions. What stories will future generations tell about this moment, when cultural heritage transcended borders with a single click? Who will be the next expected or unexpected interlocutors between ancient tradition and emerging technologies? What untold narratives will we unearth that reshape our understanding of European identity? And how might a small digital breakthrough today catalyze a cultural revolution tomorrow? What we must aspire to for the heritage dialogues is, at least for some of the answers to some of these questions, to start emerging from our discussions. They could come from policymakers, civil society representatives, maybe from a curator who spent half his life in archives preserving ancient manuscripts, or from tech-savvy teenagers never having set foot in a museum. Or, as the next speaker will demonstrate, from people experiencing firsthand the dangers of heritage under threat. What I wish to them all, and to us all, is that through our conversations, Europe's future in the digital will start to take shape. Thank you so much for having me. I wish you a wonderful couple of hours, and if you hang around for the whole week, a couple of inspiring days to come. I'm looking forward very much to spending them with you.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for this inspiring presentation on how the European initiative is supporting our colleagues in Ukraine and also our plans to continue collaborating with Western Balkan countries. I also appreciate your emphasis on the network and its nodes and how can they spark collaboration. I think this is truly highlighting how we are acting as a network of networks to drive the digital transformation across the broader European cultural space. Our next speaker is Alexandra Veselska from the Crimean Tatar Language Project, which was mentioned by Sophie as well through the Hackathon initiative, who will deliver an enlightening talk to also showcase how this collaboration looks in practice. So welcome, Alexandra. The virtual floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I hope it's clear. You can hear me clearly. It's fine. Yes, thank you. So thank you a lot for this introduction and my warmest thanks to Europeana for organizing this event. It's truly a privilege to share with you our work at Kerim Young, NGO dedicated to the preservation of Crimean Tatar language and literature. So, Crimean Tatars are a Turkic-speaking ethnic group indigenous to Ukraine, with a rich history dating back to their independent state from the 15th to the 18th century. Tragically, they have faced centuries of oppression, starting with the annexation of their state by the Russian Empire, discriminatory policies both under Russian and Soviet rule, and the 1944 deportation that resulted in the death of 20 to 40% of the population. Though Crimean Tatars began returning to Crimea en masse in the 1990s, the persecutions resumed with the Russian occupation in 2000. Today, only 25% of the 250,000 Crimean Tatars in Ukraine speak their native language. It is recognized as severely endangered by UNESCO, and its survival depends on urgent and innovative actions. The first big preservation program of our NGO was the digital corpus of Crimean Tatar language, thanks to which Crimean Tatar was added to Google Translate. While this is an important milestone, broader language survival depends on everyday use, especially in the digital sphere. This led us to our upcoming project developing a comprehensive digital platform to preserve and advance the Crimean Tatar language. Key components include dictionary, translation, pronunciation, spell check tools, as well as an API for language integration into applications, all built thanks to the existing corpus. Bringing Crimean Tatar in the digital sphere presents different challenges. Generic issues characteristic of any preservation project, for example, limited or insufficient financial resources, but also there are issues specific to indigenous communities, including lack of standardized spelling, small language corpus, language recognition tools not being adapted for indigenous languages, shortage of computational linguists specialized in indigenous languages, and discrepancy in digital literacy and language knowledge between younger and older generations. Also, we face a whole set of issues caused by war and occupation. Displacement fragments communities, it disrupts intergenerational language transfer and accelerates assimilation. Access to libraries, archives, specialists, and community members in occupied Crimea is restricted, and communication with them is hindered by self-censorship due to the security issues. Operational challenges like power cuts, internet cuts, and air raid alerts are also part of daily routine, though people have already learned to cope with the latter one. Despite these challenges, there is always room for opportunity. Digitizing materials expands global access to them, including for diaspora, displaced people, and people with disabilities. Our projects create infrastructure for the future language specialists, but also employ and train existing ones. Moreover, our experience preserving intangible heritage in adversity could be of great value to other endangered communities in Ukraine, particularly in the south of the country, and globally, as climate change and conflicts threaten cultural identities. Despite the fragility of intangible heritage, its preservation strengthens and brings together communities. Crimean Tatars' efforts to protect language and identity exemplifies resilience, fostering solidarity within and between ethnic groups. Our NGO was founded and is led by Crimean Tatars. During the Corpus project, Crimean Tatars made up to 70% of our team. So this is truly a by the community, for the community initiative. Beyond language preservation, raising awareness through media outreach and public engagement is a part of our mission too. Environmental responsibility also matters to us. Most of our data is stored on servers operated by companies committed to green practices, and we optimize the technical components of the project for higher efficiency. These projects open doors for numerous both national and international partnerships, financial support, visibility like today's event, expertise and technology exchange, including collaboration with House of Europe in the frame of the hackathon mentioned by Sophie. All of them are important, and we are grateful for all organizations and individuals who have joined us on this journey, and we are always open to expand our networks. Preserving the Crimean Tatar language is about safeguarding culture and identity under the existential threat. While the war exacerbates challenges, it also fuels our determination. Through technology, community involvement, and partnership, we aim to ensure that this language not only survives, but thrives. Finally, a heartfelt thanks to Ukraine's defenders whose bravery makes this work possible, and to all of you for your time and interest. Please Feel free to contact me or Eldar, our NGO's coordinator, to discuss collaborations, share experience, and build a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, for sharing the wonderful work that you and your team of volunteers are doing to preserve the Crimean language as a living cultural expression in the digital age. Please feel free also to share your contacts in the chat and links to the work that we are doing so that our colleagues can also connect with you. Thank you very much again, and I would now like to introduce our next speaker. George Hausler, Director for Culture, Creativity and Sport at DG for Education and Culture, DG EAC at the European Commission, who will deliver the opening remarks for these heritage dialogues on behalf of the European Commission, our trusted partner and founder of this project as well. A very warm welcome, Director Hausler. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Can you see and hear me?
I can hear you and see you as well.
That's a very good start. Thank you, Elena, for this introduction, and thank you for the remarks of both Sophia and Alexandra opening this second heritage dialogue. I think the subject you are discussing here is, of course, extremely relevant, and also the geographical dimension which you give to this debate, I think, is relevant, very relevant indeed. It also shows that the Heritage Hub has established itself as a cornerstone to discuss cultural heritage on a pan-European level. And I think this is very good news for us as well, knowing that you are one of our main players in the cultural heritage debate. Now, I think that both opening remarks have shown already in a focus what is really at stage with digital transformation and which its relationship to cultural heritage. I think both sides were already presented in a very elaborate way. The one side which I want to dwell on first, which is the opportunity side of the digital transformation and the chances it will offer, particularly for cultural heritage. But then, of course, there is also the threat side, which is considered not only by cultural heritage, but I think by cultural and creative sector in general, and the risks which are attached to the digital transformation. Now, it reminds me a bit of what happened centuries ago when photography and the cameras were invented, which had such a huge impact on cultural heritage, because then suddenly people thought there's no need anymore to go to a museum. You can watch a painting on a photograph. It's no need to travel to cultural heritage sites because you can see all the details on photographs. And I think it was at the time a similar double feeling about it, like saying, is this more positive or is it more negative for cultural heritage? Now, I think we have been in cultural, with artificial intelligence and virtual reality and the digital transformation, we clearly should see first, I believe, the opportunities. First of all, I would name to reach out to different audiences and reach out to audiences in a completely different way, bringing people in connection with cultural heritage and all its advantages, who would, as somebody said just before, never set a foot in a museum. I think that's clearly a very positive side of it. It's also the way in which you interact with audience, which has been, I believe, completely revolutionized with the digital transformation. And you can have various different cultural experiences which you didn't have this way before. Now, obviously, the whole digital transformation has been boosted enormously by COVID in a very different way, not least the way we are interacting today here and talking about cultural heritage all over Europe on a webinar, which was probably before COVID a rather unusual way of discussing, and now has become a standard format. I think there are also difficulties which we should clearly face and which have not been solved yet. First of all, the cost of access to technologies. Not everybody has the leisure of being able to be active in a digital environment. And this is also linked to a shortage of skills, which is one of the big challenges, I assume, not only of our cultural and creative sectors, but of the industry and the competitiveness of European economy in general. We do have a certain issue there that people are not skilled enough yet to be able to benefit from the digital transformation. And last but not least, the risk of the predominance of dominant mainstream providers, which have via digital means a unique possibility to very much control the type and the way we consume culture and cultural heritage in general. Now, the risk of obviously of digital transformation and the digital and cultural heritage is a similar one which I mentioned before of the 200 years ago. The risk is that we are not looking enough at the diversity of our cultural heritage, but it only favors the big stars, the big well-known cultural heritage sites, be it tangible, be it intangible cultural heritage. And I think this is something which we definitely need to concentrate on and make sure that the variety of European cultural heritage is brought to the fore and not only the most famous parts. Now, you know, all these issues which you are going to discuss throughout the week are part of our work plan for culture, which we have established last year, which will be the guiding principle for the next 2 years to come in the cultural policy debate. We also have a very strong political angle with the digital service package, which has obviously a huge impact on everything we are discussing here today. Illegal content, copyright infringements, copyright issues are obviously extremely relevant in everything you will be discussing the coming days. Now, I want to maybe draw attention to 2 projects I know you're going to discuss over the next days. The first one, the European Data Space for Cultural Heritage, and the other one being the European Collective Cloud for Cultural Heritage. Both examples where we believe that we should invest stronger and better in research in order to have possibilities for the heritage community to have support on this in this area. Now, I know also obviously you are going to discuss this the next days. There are some issues still with both projects of the participation of our neighboring countries, which are all present now in this debate over the next days. And I think you should definitely be able, with your dialogue here, to bring them more on board than they are at the moment, because it's so relevant for everything we are doing for cultural heritage. Now, I think our neighboring countries, particularly in the East, are also emphasizing the main challenges which we have today on cultural heritage. You have been in the opening remarks mentioning 2 of them. The one which is obviously the most striking one, which is war and cultural heritage. You, Sophie, you've been talking about our experience in Ukraine and all the work you are doing in Ukraine. Obviously, the other element, which was, I believe Ursula mentioned it briefly, and which is of a dark cloud hanging over cultural heritage, all over Europe is the lack of funding. I mean, this is clearly something which needs to be addressed on a constant basis, and also needs to be discussed with our political masters, that cultural heritage is only possible if we have sufficient funding. And the third one, which has not been mentioned yet, but which I'm sure you're going to discuss quite in length those days, is climate change and cultural heritage. And again, of course, the interlink with the funding, because climate change and the threat to cultural heritage through climate change is very, very relevant. Now, the digitalization can be a tool to work on all those three areas. And I think we should see it in this positive way. It can help us to fight climate change. It can help us to preserve the cultural heritage in a particular situation as we have it in Ukraine now. And I know that you are doing that with your projects. And digitalization can also be a tool to render all our procedures more efficient, and in this way also help us to make better use of funding. Now, nothing else from my side. The message I wanted to convey, and I'm sure you've seen that, is let's have a look more at the positive sides, at the opportunities. Let's be aware of the risks and the threats, but don't get overwhelmed by them, and don't be too pessimistic about it, that we are not going to solve all these different challenges. So I wish you a very interesting debate today and in the coming days, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of your deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director Hassler, for being with us, and also for setting the scene also in view of the discussions that we will have today, outlining different challenges like the concentration of power in a few handful tech companies, or lack of digital skills, digital gap, lack of funding, of course, but how we can see digital indeed as an opportunity. And we really hope that with projects such as the Common European Data Space for Cultural Heritage, and also through the Heritage Hub, we are contributing to address these challenges. I also take this opportunity to thank DG EAC for their continued support for the work of the European Heritage Hub pilot project. And with this, I now would like to introduce the next section of our program. Yes, there we are. So the Heritage Dialogue panel conversation. Please join me in welcoming our panelists of the day. We have Ule Kechichian, Senior Project Manager at the TUMO Center for Creative Technologies in Armenia, along with Senada Demirovic, President of IDEA Urban House Association in Bosnia. And our moderator of the day is Vesna Marjanovic, Secretary General of Europa Nostra Serbia. Very warm welcome. Thank you for being with us. And Vesna, I hand over the moderation to you.
Thank you very much, Lorena. Also checking if you can hear me well, yes, and see me, I hope. Hello, Senada and Tule and everyone. Very, very nice to see you.
I hope you hear me well.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this important discussion that we are having in the Heritage Dialogue series. As we heard, it's part of the Heritage Horizons Europeana Project Week. I am really delighted to be moderating this panel today, and this panel brings together remarkable voices and perspectives in order to explore a topic that sits at the crossroads of innovation, responsibility, and transformation. So digital transformation is no longer just a trend, it is a necessity. It is shaping how we preserve, promote, and empower our shared cultural heritage. But of course, as we embrace this shift, we must ask ourselves some critical questions. How do we ensure this transformation is rooted in values of social and environmental responsibility? How can the heritage sector in the EU and the neighboring countries, which we all come from, the three of us, countries that are facing some very different and in many cases grave societal and political challenges, not only adapt but thrive in this digital age? And more importantly, how can cross-border partnerships and shared expertise with the pan-European community drive a future that is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient? These are not only abstract issues. As we heard from Mr. Häusler, they touch the very heart of our work in the heritage field. While digital tools and platforms offer great opportunities, connecting communities, democratizing access to culture, fostering creativity, they also come with challenges, the environmental cost of digitization, the risk of alienation among people, and alienation from the heritage sites and institutions, as well as the need for ethical frameworks in emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. So we are privileged to have our two distinguished speakers with us today. Lorena has already introduced them. Hule Kechichian, Senior Project Manager at the TUMO Center for Creative Technologies, who will share insights from their groundbreaking work in empowering young people through digital skills in Armenia and beyond. Senada Demirovic-Habibia, representing IDEA Urban House Bosnia, who will provide a perspective from the Western Balkans on bridging heritage and digital innovation. To start our conversation, I'd like to ask both of you to provide your perspectives on digital transformation in your respective countries in the field of cultural heritage, of course, so from Bosnia and Herzegovina and Armenia. Specifically, I'd love to hear your insights on what are our capacities as citizens to responsibly embrace digital tools in the field of cultural heritage. And additionally, I'm keen to explore your thoughts and experiences, whether there is a digital divide between EU and non-EU countries in this regard, and how this might shape future opportunities or challenges in cultural heritage in our respective countries. So I have asked maybe too many questions, but I'm sure you have prepared your answers. So let's begin. Maybe we can start with Hule,
Sure.
Sorry. And let's hear your thoughts on these issues. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vesna, and thank you for having us today. Thank you for all the guests for being here. I think this conversation is extremely important, and as a representative of TUMO, and especially of TUMO's scanning project, a lot of what has been discussed today is very relevant to what we're doing now in Armenia. So just to give you a very brief idea what TUMO is, to give you a bit of context, TUMO is an organization, a program that provides 12 to 18 students free of charge education on creative technologies. So anything from 3D modeling, programming, web design, music mixing. It is a very large scale program in Armenia. So our goal is to reach all the teenagers in Armenia, especially those also in the rural areas, because we have started with very big centers that are actually very centralized. So now we are also going in the villages to really have an opportunity to reach all students. And today, TUMO has also been franchised in more than 9 countries. So this is also an extremely interesting opportunity for us to see the reactions and the differences between teens from Armenia and in the world. The 3D scanning project has been undertaken by TUMO in the aftermath of the war in 2020 between Armenia and Azerbaijan, in especially a context where cultural preservation was really an important issue for us, as also many social, as you can imagine, political war, everything was going on in Armenia at that moment, and someone had to take care of the cultural heritage that sometimes is not the very, very first societal worry. So that is when TUMO undertook its very large scale digitizing of Armenian cultural heritage project. And one thing that in your question, Vesna, I think is important is our responsibility as educators to bring the technologies in spaces that are maybe less served than, let's say, the very center of the European Union. So, for instance, I am originally from France, so I have been growing in this environment where, you know, everything is very, let's say, everything happens. Every expert is present. The technologies are very advanced. You have every resource. And coming to Armenia, I think one of our very first responsibilities is one to give the youth a good understanding of the value of the heritage that surrounds them, because that is not a given. I think in some European countries, this education happens very, very early, and in some others it is not, especially when you have other pressing issues. Maybe education around the value of heritage is the first step, and then also then bringing them the resources and the capacity building that allows them to access the technology, to access the rest of the world, basically. So is there a digital divide? I think, of course, yes, because we don't have as many experts. We don't have, you know, as the manager of this project, equipment, for instance. Equipment is very hard to purchase in a country that is not in an open market like the EU. There's a lot of things that create a digital divide, but I think the important thing here is that it's the opposite. I think the digital bridge is the opportunity. Using this non-terrestrial way of communicating to not focus on the divide, but focus on how we can leverage this to raise awareness in the entire world about something that is happening in this very remote country that not many people can place on a map, for instance. So,
thank you very much, Hule. I think you gave a perfect opening for our other speaker, our dear friend, Senada Demirovic, with mentioning the word bridge. In this case, it's a digital bridge that you were speaking about, but Senada comes from Mostar, where the bridge of Mostar has become a symbol of both our history, of course, but also of conflict and post-conflict societies. So she comes from also a very specific area of the Western Balkans. So Senada, what are your thoughts and experiences about this interesting and important topic that we are discussing today?
Good day to everyone. I hope you hear me well. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me and for giving a chance to share some thoughts. Eventually, knowing all this, what you are just explaining, and thank you, Hule, for underlining some of the important layers related to what is the future of the heritage, and the fact that what Vesna already said, that digital transformation as well as artificial intelligence is all around us, and the fact that we cannot really skip it, although within people still there is a kind of suspicious thoughts on whether this is the way how we should proceed or not. Whatever we think about, it is around us, and probably we have just to be a bit smarter in order to put it in a favor of our needs. So as Vesna said, and it's very good to start with the bridge, a bridge as a symbol for not only city of Mostar, but for everything what is happening right now. I have to share the thought on what IDEA is also one of the bridges within our society is trying to do, is exactly to reconnect the society, to give a chance to youth from the city of Mostar, which was particularly how to say, a city under a big war destruction, and not only that the heritage was destroyed, but in a way that identity of a city was destroyed with the failure of the old bridge, but the society in a post-war period was also and is still unfortunately under this burden of division. We have a marvelous bridge which was at the edge of the Ottoman Empire in that time in the 16th century, the emerald of architecture and engineering. We successfully did the reconstruction of the bridge in the beginning of the 21st century. But I have to say, as a young architect then, at the beginning of the 2000s until today, I'm following all this process, and I unfortunately have to say that we are stagnating for at least 2 decades. In that sense, what we really can do and what we are trying to achieve right now with the through the digital transformation, particularly with the artificial intelligence, is to help ourselves to be more pragmatic and to try to wrap up the years that we actually lost in the process of maintenance and development of the cultural heritage of city of Mostar, but not only Mostar, but whole Bosnia. Unfortunately, we all know about the history of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the last 30 years with the war and everything what is going on until today. We are also in line with the neighboring countries trying to achieve like all the goals expected from us to get in European Union, but the process is very slow, as we all know, and we don't have a time anymore to wait. So basically, my story, this what I'm sharing with you, was at the beginning my personal intention and a need as an architect and urban planner, but also a citizen, to understand that I have to work and dedicate my work to work with the society, with the youth of Mostar, in order to give them a space to peacefully build the connections between them. But in this very moment, what I'm doing also, we are trying to develop it further within this artificial intelligence field, and in the moment we are creating the Institute for Architecture, Urbanism and Heritage, which is based on artificial intelligence. It is exactly what I'm trying to say, that we are trying to be more pragmatic and to wrap up the lost 20 years in order to give ourselves a bit of a time and try to find the methodologies that will help us to save the heritage that we still have. In that sense, the first step we are doing in the very moment is the new version of the UNESCO World Heritage Site Management Plan, as we are trying to build the digital twin for it. What we are really finding as a big issue and challenge is finding the data. So as the data are around, but they have to be digitalized, they have to be put into some cloud, into the space, in order to be understood, and that we can do something with them in order to help ourselves and the heritage. All this process, again, I have to say, from one side is very well received, on the other side there is still kind of a suspicious whether not only if we will achieve our goal, but is this the correct way? I have to say that historically speaking, having the city of Mostar being as it is, always a very proud city, always somewhere at the edge of the new perspectives and the changes, definitely this what we are doing in a moment is hard, but it's possible. And why we are actually doing it, it's both global and local. It is not only for city of Mostar and Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is probably something that will help us make better connections in the region, in the Balkan, what is today Balkan region, what used to be Yugoslavia, but a wider region as well. And then it is good to send a message from the city that suffered that much, as the city of Mostar did suffer during the war and after war. So if this kind of a city can actually live a paradigm from the case city always with this burden of division, into something showing the prosperous and the possibilities that there is a future and the future is bright. I think it's a great case that actually city of Mostar can be. Just to mention several of the strategic goals that we want to achieve through the Institute is related to heritage-driven innovation, leverage historical preservation as a catalyst for sustainable development in urban innovation, because we also have to take in mind that on the one hand, we are protecting a cultural heritage, but on the other hand, we need to leave our cities to grow organically as they have, with the whole what the future is bringing to us. The climate responsible design. This is a crucial issue, as we already know also through the Heritage Hub and what Europa Nostra is also proposing through these triple stages, that climate change is something that is urgent as a subject. Community and cultural engagement, as I already mentioned. And finally, what we just heard before, the lack of knowledge and the fact that we need to grow in the skills. So I'm going to stop in a moment. Maybe I spoke too long, but let me just underline one of the core values that we really want to achieve is an excellence. I think that in the region, in ex-Yugoslavia, we were always very famous, but being very knowledgeable, very excellently knowledgeable. Unfortunately, this knowledge dilapidated, unfortunately for all of us, but within our DNA, we do have this possibility to bring it back. And it is really important to strive toward the excellence. And we can do it through the heritage protection and using the innovation definitely to put it in a favor to bring our heritage to the pedestal where it really has to be.
Thank you, Senada. Yes, we have time for another round, just one other round of questions for the two of you, and hopefully leave a couple of minutes for others to maybe ask questions themselves. What I would like to ask both of you at this point, with also somehow connecting to what Senada was speaking about, how the former Yugoslavia country where we used to live together peacefully, we know how long it takes to build the bridges back again. We are still building some of those bridges, even more than 20 years or 30 years after the war was over. So it just shows how much destruction happens very quickly, and something creative and something that we want to construct, unfortunately, takes much longer. So I think it could be a good example of how to bridge these gaps as well in the field of cultural heritage, and also embracing new challenges and new technologies. So the question is about cooperation and partnerships. How important this is for you. Think that for you, when I say for you, I actually mean for us. It's not only for organizations that are involved in these projects, but I think most importantly for the beneficiaries, the users, or basically our citizens. So how important are these cooperations, border cooperations? On the one hand, of course, we have the EU, which is usually one of the biggest financial supporters of many cultural heritage projects in all our countries, but also between our countries, among our countries. How do we use the opportunities of cooperation? Can we do more? And how do you see this in the perspective of the digital transformation process that we are now in? So you have about 2 or 3 minutes each. I have to be strict, I'm sorry, but if you can manage to answer in this time frame. Thank you. So Hule, can you start again?
Yes, sure. I think, to be very quick, there are 2 or 3 aspects of this. Cooperation, of course, fosters collaboration, which fosters innovation. This is one of our biggest, what we're the most convinced of in here in TUMO. So that's why also the model of how we work is that we bring international experts for 2 weeks or a month and do hands-on labs always with the teenagers. So this is part of our curriculum. Cooperation will always bring something new, will always bring innovation, will always bring new ideas. So for instance, how we could react so fast after the war in 2020, because we had only two weeks before we had to leave some regions to open on military occupation. It was because we knew we had this partner from France, Econem, who had already scanned Aleppo, who had already scanned Palmyra, who could come and really fast and collaborate. So one thing in collaborating in the long run is also having solutions in emergency situations, which in conflict areas are extremely important. So I have another example also of innovation. So we have a program about AI in TUMO. We have this other program about the cultural heritage, but having experts from all around the world come for the AI conference, you have a lot of ideas that pop on, and we end up creating a tool on the AI in culture preservation. So collaboration always fosters new ideas, always fosters development. And I am also keen, I'd like to think that especially in conflict areas, collaboration with your neighbors can foster maybe discussions around peace, which is one of the most important components for us in Armenia for cultural preservation. So I think these are the two main aspects for me as to why collaboration is extremely important, especially in underserved countries.
Thank you very much, Senada.
Yeah, just to keep it also very short, definitely the partnership and collaboration, I think already us could be a very good example, since we already started our collaboration, and we have some results upon it, exactly on some of the layers of this story that we are sharing, which is about the citizens, I mean the youth, and the understanding of the history. For us, it's important nationally, but it could be also convenient for international collaboration. This triple helix model, where we have to engage academia, industry, and government all together, so all of us, and then make a network globally. And the global network, for it's very important also in the story of this, what I already mentioned, through the institute that we are setting up, is with the universities around the globe, also the regional universities, but the individual expertise. I think that it's very important to understand the personal the experts as individuals, and as Hule just mentioned, it's important in some processes that we are very well organized within our region, because somehow we do understand each other's, our identities are quite common, and the languages, the history, the traditions. So probably like developing on that level, this network could really give a great progress in a quite short period of time. And the ways how we can do it is also through the different programs, whether it's workshops or applying together for some funding and developing the projects within our region, as well as some summer school programs or the fellowships, internships, etc. This is exactly how we will also build the trust within the younger generation, and in the same time build the new generation of how to say, experts.
Thank you very much, both of you. So before we give an opportunity to some of our participants to possibly ask questions, so I would just be very, very short before I just have a look to the chat if there are any questions. Actually, I think there are none. So, okay. just to give one nice example of an Armenian movie that we saw in Belgrade a couple of days ago. It was about famous Armenian film director Sergei Parajanov. This is the 100th anniversary since he was born. The film was made by a very, very young female documentary director, and this is also a fantastic example of bridging generations as well through new technologies and new angles of looking at our heritage. So I think I will close before giving the floor back to Lorena. I will just say one thing, that the digital era undoubtedly brings at least one thing that we can be sure of, and that is a wider community and a wider network. So back to you, Lorena, and thank to Hule and Senada for this interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our wonderful panelists and moderator for this insightful discussion. I am looking at the chat. We don't have any questions. We have words of encouragement for the discussion that we just heard. There is, of course, so much more to say and to share, but please do not worry. We now have enough time to continue these discussions and actually in smaller groups. So I don't see any questions for our panelists. I would like to thank you once again. And I do encourage all of you, if you still have comments, questions, things that you would like to share, you can do that during the breakout session. So we will now move on to breakout rooms to continue exploring the needs, challenges, and opportunities of the triple transformation and of pan-European cooperation and partnerships. Our technical staff will allocate you to your own room, so you don't have to do anything yourself, just accept being moved to this room to the other. And our moderators will be there waiting for you to welcome you and guide you through the discussion. We have the pleasure to have with us today Ambra Hatzimuhamedovic, Director of the Center for Cultural Heritage International Forum Bosnia, and our own Yolan Woods, Collection Editor at the Europeana Foundation. So our moderators will take it from here, and we will meet back in plenary at 12:20. So I wish you fruitful discussions and see you at 12:20 back in plenary so that you can also share what you've discussed in your group. Welcome back. I hope that you had fruitful discussions in your breakout sessions, and thank you also to our dear moderators for having facilitated that. And I would now like to invite them to share with us their main takeaways. Maybe we can start with group one. Ambra, if you would like to take the floor and share what your group discussed. And in the meantime, I will share my screen as I was the assignated note taker, so I can show you also what we compiled in the Miro board.
Thank you, Lorena, very much. I would like to thank to all participants to the group one for the fruitful discussion. As always, the time was not sufficient to share all the experiences, all the thoughts and ideas. However, I would like to ask Lorena to help me with sharing her notes that she took while listening to the participants, just to help me to summarize what has been expressed to these discussions. So the whole conversation and discussion was led around three sets of questions concerning the digital transition, social transition, green transition and cooperation, especially in this pan-European network. So that means communications, etc. So the what has been expressed through the discussion are main challenges that are from the field of the ethical considerations, from the field of the support from the community and the users that are in fact these target groups. Our users are the reasons for the work on this huge field that we called transformation on transition in all the fields of policy, politics, strategy, planning, life, and work. And opportunities, so we also mentioned several good practices as in some kind of examples how to work, how to do on the solution making. What is mentioned as what I mentioned as a major challenges through our discussion, among the others, I can just list some of them, is in fact lack of capacities and in fact some kind of the unregulated, the whole area of lack of regulations concerning the capacities of those who participate in this field of digitization, prioritization of what should be digitized, the way how it should be digitized, how concerning retrieval, accessibility, use, check of data, and background knowledge concerning cultural heritage and all the potential that cultural heritage has for being used for good causes and also misused, as we well know about that. So these capacities are extremely important. That means that the work with the universities and the stress on the importance of the researchers, experts, and some kind of regulatory bodies should be developed. The regulatory bodies and the regulatory process has been also mentioned, as it is mentioned whenever we speak about the cyberspace and about the cloud data and everything what is produced, how it is used, who is the owner, how it is produced, and all the protective measures concerning the cyber attacks and cyber misuse that are in fact something that lacks in a lot of the country, at least lacks the knowledge. As far as I know, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is the whole chair at the university dealing with the regulation of these rules of the going out to the cyberspace, digitization, etc. But there is a lack of the awareness of its importance. It is somehow circled in a circle of those who deal with it, who research it, and who are suggesting the establishing of regulatory process. Then the bureaucracy is mentioned as a huge challenge, and of course, funding. However, the accessibility and the discoverability of heritage through the digitize different kind of the assets, media, etc., platforms that are established to offer them is in fact reported as a huge opportunity for democratical approach to cultural heritage, for decision-making, for protecting the data, for analyzing them, researching them, and raising awareness of importance of cultural heritage. At the same time, this what is mentioned as a discoverability or accessibility of data on cultural heritage is a challenge. How to come close to the data that can be digitized and how to discover them. It is reported as a challenge, and it also points to the well-mentioned, previously mentioned challenge of background education and knowledge. So the challenge that is mentioned as well, and some kind of the solutions, is a multilingual body of the cultural heritage and the need for its translation. Concerning this social transition, it is very important to have in mind that the final user profiles have been changing constantly, quickly during the time, and that the final users have to be in a constant kind of approach concerning green transition, raising awareness on climate change, and also some kind of experience that I have working on a House of International Dialogue and Research is in fact using combination of inclusive discourse of the new technologies, but also of the informal traditional knowledge to work on a climate change adaptation projects and strategies can be extremely important, and we work that in the project that is supported by European Heritage Hub. So pan-European cooperation it should be the key of the solutions. That is why the cross-border projects are considered as something that should be stressed, promoted in the future, and the establishing of networks of projects, networks of people, individuals, networks of organizations that will help to gain the knowledge and also the resources through these networks. Thank you very much. That was a very brief summary of very rich discussion.
Thank you very much, Amra, for reporting back our rich discussions. I will now like to invite the moderator of the second breakout group, Yolan, to also share with us what happened in this group.
Sure, thank you so much, and thank you, Mano, for sharing the Miro board. I will keep it short since I think a lot of what was talked about in the first group also, of course, came up during the second group. There were a lot of touch points there. The need for funding in a lot of these initiatives, the need for more cross-border collaboration, cross-border projects, the importance of networks to really make sure that people collaborate to find shared funding and consortia. Those are a few of the things that I heard from this first kind of wrap up that for sure also came up in our breakout room. I think in our group we focused on two big topics. The first topic, which was of course part of the intervention that we got about the Museum of Stolen Art, focused on the kind of grassroots bottom-up projects that come out of local conflicts, out of a need that is seen with community groups that then want to create a digital project to preserve digital cultural heritage. So we talked about the Museum of Stolen Art, we talked about the Oral History Kosovo project, and there were a lot of interesting opportunities and challenges that these projects share. They are, of course, since they're community-based, they need funding to be sustainable. They are always looking for collaborations and partners to continue and to expand their work, even though everyone sees that they are important, crucial projects that really highlight parts of heritage and use really innovative tools like the metaverse, immersive tech to create new ways to have narratives for cultural heritage that often more traditional cultural heritage institutions are lagging behind for. So there's a lot that the, let's say, traditional GLAM sphere can learn from these community-based projects. They really engage civil society, they engage communities, and I think everyone was really enamored and impressed with what these projects were doing. So projects coming out of conflict situations have a lot of interesting challenges and solutions. So I talked about the need for funding. The Oral History Kosovo project shared with us that they need to reframe what their project is looking for to make sure that they find new funding opportunities to fit maybe into the mold of funding projects, of proposals, things like that. And that need to reframe to still stay relevant and innovative, I think, was really interesting. There were other opportunities that these projects can really work towards, like being part of existing working groups, joining the Europeana Network Association, becoming part of European consortia. But of course, this need of support from the EU and other countries to campaign and exchange good practices stays paramount. Then this was our first big topic. Our second was we tried to kind of delve deeper into the green transition, the sustainability part of the triple transition. I felt like this was still a bit harder to talk about. It's on everyone's mind, but there aren't that many tangible outcomes yet. We did hear from how the KU Leuven has some project proposals that are working in a more horizontal way. We've heard about sustainability groups and sustainability managers that are part of internal kind of green and sustainable transitions within organizations already. But here again, there is this really the need for a change of mindset, a change of technology, and again, funding opportunities to make these internal groups that really want to work on sustainability, on innovation, on becoming more green, making them more transversal across state borders, across country borders, and of course across institutions as well. That was, I think, in a nutshell, what we talked about. There's a lot more that I couldn't highlight, but I think the Miro board also gives some interesting extra information if you're looking for some more sources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yolan. Thank you, Ambra, our wonderful facilitators, moderators, conversation speakers, conversation starters. Sorry, also thank you for sharing your expertise and thoughts with us. The Miro boards will be shared in the chat for your reference. Indeed, as Yolan said, there are some interesting projects that you can check. And we will also build a short recap or report as part of the Heritage Hub project on this basis after the event, so you will hear from us. But now we are approaching to the end of our Heritage Dialogues and this morning's program. So I would like to introduce our very last speaker of the day, who is Agnieszka Kowalewicz-Michalowicz, Secretary General of Europa Nostra and the project leader of the European Heritage Hub, who is here with us to close this interesting discussion, and have the last words are for you, Agnieszka, for your closing remarks. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, querida Lorena. I feel so proud to be the leader of the European Heritage Hub project and to sort of witness how the hub is developing and how the hub is building more and more bridges between heritage stakeholders and between topics that are relevant to our heritage community in Europe. And I'm grateful for to Lorena, to you, and our trusted partner, Europeana, for the organization of this second Heritage Dialogue, second in a series of Heritage Dialogues that we are organizing within the European Heritage Hub. And I was also delighted to see, because I was looking in the names of the participants. I think we had more than 100 people who attending this dialogue, and but looking into the names, I could see that it was truly pan-European, that we had a lot of participation from the neighboring countries, because the focus of this dialogue was not only on regenerative digital transition, but in particularly the focus was on the neighboring countries of the EU. For organizations like Europeana and Europa Nostra, we are also very proud to have contributed to organization. So together with the Europeana, Manon Richard was working together with Lorena in organizing that. For us, Europe has always been la grande Europe. It has always been the Europe that could not be limited to the actual frontiers of the European Union. And this is the philosophy that inspires our entire work, that the European cultural heritage space without borders of our Europe is something that we are working with and working for. And this is a strong message that the hub is also, the entire European Heritage Hub is passing to the European Union institutions. So this is a particularly first message goes to the participants from the neighboring countries. Some of them took the floor as speakers and moderators, but then in the breakout rooms, you have also contributed. But I mean, count on us. First, we don't want, also a second message to you, we don't want only to promote some kind of export the expertise from the EU to the neighboring countries. We also want to import expertise, competence, creativity, imagination, determination from the neighboring countries to the current membership of the European Union. And I want to really reassure you that if we are talking about transformative partnerships, the only way that these partnerships can work is if it is sort of on the basis of equality. And we are aware, I think several participants mentioned this problem of digital divides. And of course, the problems of not all parts of Europe have equal opportunities and equal access also to the digital tools. And that's why we need to work more on that, and we will pass these messages in the policy recommendations that the European Heritage Hub is preparing in various policy fields, including with regard to digital transformation and the connection with the heritage world. So we will be advocating the need to give due attention with adequate funding also for bridging the digital divides in the relationship that the EU is developing with neighboring country, within its enlargement policy and in neighboring policy. So this is, you know, sort of a message, and you would not be surprised to hear that message from the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, who was born and raised in Belgrade. So sort of I am very much you know, count on me, but not only on me, on the entire consortium of the European Heritage Hub to pass this message. You will hear, I understand, Lorena, about the hub later this afternoon. Our colleagues will tell you more about the Proper Hub. Now, for this closing, I just want to highlight a few more messages. Several speakers pointed out that when we are speaking about the neighboring countries of the European Union, all of them are in some way living a conflict. They're either sort of post-conflict or in the conflict itself, like the case of Ukraine, or pre-conflict. There are so many fears, so many tensions, so many issues. And so the conflict is something that is constantly present in the societies, in the minds and hearts of the people. And so Europe should be precisely in European Union as a transformative power in Europe, should help the communities, people, our colleagues dealing with heritage to sort of use also the digital tools in order to transcend these conflicts and to sort of do everything possible that sort of reconciliation and reconstruction of the society is sort of going in a quicker, it is going to intensify, and especially within the relationship and integration of the neighboring countries into the European Union integration processes. Because the digital tools precisely are giving us the possibility to transcend borders. Physical and mental borders, and we need to make the best use of it. Of course, we heard from many of you, and in particularly, I appreciated very much Georg Hassler's Director for Culture Creativity from the DG Education and Culture of the European Commission, our most important partner and funder of the European Heritage Hub. The threats. But our task is that the opportunities become more important than threats, while understanding the threats, being aware of them, and making everything that we sort of neutralize these threats and sort of empower and sort of capitalize on all these opportunities. And I thought that the words that Senada Habibia Demirovic from Bosnia-Herzegovina talking about Mostar sort of are so symbolic for what I'm now saying. It's just she said, yes, we are still very much a divided city, but she was so convinced that with also that very innovative and visionary project that they're busy developing in Mostar, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and globally as well, using the artificial intelligence in order to construct a brighter, a better, more peaceful future for that city, for that region, and for Europe as a whole. And I think this is indeed the level of ambition that we should all have. It was great to see that among the moderators, speakers, contributors, we also tapped into the great network of members of the European Heritage Hub Consortium, of respective networks of Europeana, of the Europeana network community, the network of the laureates of the European Heritage Award, Europa Nostra Awards, also the network of sites that are on the list of 7 most endangered, and also the recipients of the small grant schemes that we have set up for the neighboring country within the European Heritage Hub. So it is, I think, the very good example, what we can do with that very the rich tapestry of stakeholders and heritage, and we must make sure that we don't just involve the happy few, but that it's as diversified and reaching out to sort of the periphery, though I don't like to speak about the periphery. I very often think some people think is the periphery is the center rather than the periphery of our work. So there again, the hub, the digital transformation are an opportunity in order to quote the famous slogan, not to leave anyone behind. I know I always speak longer because I got carried away, but all the inspiring conversations and inputs. But and I know that Lorena would like, and Manon, me to just recall one thing, to place all what happened during the Heritage Dialogue within the wider context, and to recall that 1.5 months ago, we had the European Cultural Heritage Summit in Bucharest. And at that summit, we had a forum of the hub was concentrated on precisely the topic of, we called it championing a responsible digital transition for and with cultural heritage. This word responsible is key, like today the word regenerative is also key in what we want to achieve. And that forum ended up by the adoption of the call to action on that same theme. I hope that the link to that call to action will be in the chat. There we outlined 5 sort of all the key messages for policymakers at all levels of governance, and outlined 5 priorities to advance a holistic digital transformation in cultural heritage. And these include securing funding, because we can talk about all that, but if you don't have the funding, it's not easy to achieve what we want. Funding for the sector's digital transformation. We want to advance research and skills development. And that is a very important message we will be championing, in particularly within the new European Commission that is starting soon on the 1st of December. So the skills development, as you know, we have a new executive vice president, Roxana Mintzatu, who is responsible for people skills and preparedness. So, we will make sure that very quickly we will go and meet her and give her a copy of our call to action and discuss how we can work together. The third priority is developing sector-specific AI guidelines and harnessing digital heritage to promote environmentally responsible practices. First of all, sector-specific AI guidelines. Everyone is talking about AI, and that will be one of the key topics that the European Union will be handling. And there is a need for a sector-specific, heritage-specific guidelines also for the AI, while remembering the European Union. I think, again, several speakers mentioned, there is also that other AI. There is an artificial intelligence, but there is also the ancestral intelligence, something which is the human intelligence gathered over the millennia of the human existence. And this is all what also heritage is about. It's also about the intangible heritage, the traditional knowledge. And all this needs, in fact, to inspire the artificial intelligence development in order to make sure that it is indeed people-centered and humanistic use of AI. As I said, we will use and this call to action, the hub, the network, the consortium, all of you. We need that in order to sort of step up our advocacy work towards the European Union and other relevant international organizations. Now, when it comes to the neighboring countries, Western Balkans, Caucasus, Ukraine, Moldova, again, a strong commitment to including these countries in everything we do. And so that's why I want also to thank and acknowledge the work of our regional hubs. We had also speakers from our Europe and Austria Heritage Hub in Athens, and that are helping us to strengthen our work in Southeast Europe with a focus on Western Balkans and the Caucasus, but also our hub in Krakow that is helping us very much in our relationship, especially with Ukraine, but also Moldova and the entire region of Central and Eastern Europe. I mentioned already the small grant scheme, which was launched thanks to the support also of our very important partner and associate organization of the hub, Alif Foundation. And we, in fact, received more than 600 project proposals, a lot of good quality. We were so frustrated that we had money only to support 14 projects. But, we just want to make sure that you know that we will fight for more. We will fight for more resources because we know that there is a need and a strong need and that we can do better together. To end, once again, thank you to main organizer, Europeana, Lorena, as a mastermind, together with Manon Richard and the rest of the Brussels team of Europa Nostra. Thank you for all moderators, to all the speakers, inspirational speakers, contributors to the breakout room. Let's continue this conversation. I know that there is this Miro board, there is a lot of ideas there, and that Europeana and Europa Nostra will make sure that all that is put together and that it will feed our and inspire our future work, and also the policy recommendation that I mentioned already that we will prepare at beginning of next year before the end of the pilot phase of the European Heritage Hub. Now, the words of Georg Hassler, who really supported the existence and the work of the hub, somehow give us confidence that the hub will continue also after the into preparatory action after the pilot project. And but this series of the Heritage Dialogues webinars will definitely continue. So I can already announce you that the next one will take place mid-December. During the week of the 16th of December, you will get the information about the exact date, and the title will be, the focus theme will be Cultural Heritage for a Sustainable and Future-Proof Europe. So much to share and so much to advocate together. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of this thriving European Heritage Hub community of interest and of practice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear Śnieżka, for this powerful intervention. I think you have summarized many of the key points of today's discussion. I know you will also be speaking at the Council of the Western Balkans Working Party this afternoon, so please pass on this important message, pass it there to the Council. And thank you for being here with us. Thank you also to all contributors of this second Heritage Dialogues for your insights and the rich discussion. So please stay tuned for updates on the European Heritage Hub. We will have this afternoon a presentation, a dedicated presentation about this project where you can learn more about it. So if we've sparked your interest, do join us, and there we will dive deeper into the work, the objectives, and the future plans of the Heritage Hub. It is my pleasure to introduce the second session of the European Heritage Hub pilot project, which is the project presentation. And the Europeana Foundation is a proud partner of this EU-funded project led by Europa Nostra, along with a consortium of 20 partners. A very warm welcome to Christy Drummond, Communications Manager at Europa Nostra, Dimitra Kislari, European Policy Manager at Europa Nostra as well, and Jasna Popovic, Coordinator of Youth Activities at ESAC, who will tell us more about the European Heritage Hub. So Christy, I see you on screen, Dimitra and Jasna. The floor is yours. Please take control of the slides and tell us more about the European Heritage Hub.
Right, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Dimitra Kislari, and I'm Europa Nostra's Policy Manager. It is a great pleasure to be here today as a guest of Europeana. Thank you to our hosts for the excellent organization and seamless experience online. Thank you, Lorena. Thank you, Gina, Jolan, and the rest of the team. We've been following the event since the beginning this morning, and we've been amazed by the breadth of topics discussed. Now, I would like to present to you the European Heritage Hub pilot project. You will hear about its main goals, its activities, and you will also learn how you can get involved. A little bit about how this presentation will go. We're 3 speakers. We've estimated that our presentation will take about 45 minutes maybe, and then we've allocated the last 15 minutes to a Q&A, and hopefully you'll be following along the presentation and have questions. We're really keen to have a discussion with you towards the end. Now, let's look at the first slide. Now, a little bit about the background. The European Heritage Hub is an EU pilot project It has been approved by the European Parliament, and it is funded predominantly by the European Parliament's budget. This means that it is not funded by the existing funding programs, so Creative Europe or Erasmus. It's not funded by the standard funding programs of the European Union. It stands at a different level. Its primary aim is to connect heritage stakeholders, such as yourselves, and initiatives across the European continent. That's the wider Europe, as our Secretary General underlined earlier, and to support the transition towards a more sustainable, digital, and inclusive society. I would like you to keep in mind these three adjectives: sustainable, digital, and inclusive, because we'll come back to them later. It builds on the momentum, this project builds on the momentum created by the European Year of Cultural Heritage, that was in 2018. And then in 2019, there was the European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage. So we would like very much to sustain the legacy of the year and to ensure its long-term impacts. We launched the project in May 2023, and this project will run for an initial period of 2 years. We're actively working, you heard our Secretary General say that we're actively working to continue with the hub for another 2 years, but we'll have greater clarity on this in early 2025. Now, the hub's activities cover the whole of Europe. That includes the EU neighboring countries with a special focus on Ukraine, Moldova, and the Western Balkans. That's Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Bosnia, Kosovo, and Serbia. Next slide. I'll talk to you about our partners. So Europa Nostra is leading the project, but we're working together with many other partners across Europe to implement it. So we have 4 main European partners who are co-beneficiaries. They stand at the top ribbon of the slide. This is the Europeana Foundation, our hosts for the day. They focus on digital heritage. They were introduced and established in 2008. Then Eurocities and ICLEI. They both work on a local level, on a city level and regional level, and also KU Leuven via the KU Leuven Institute for Sustainable, for Cultural Heritage, So these are our 4 co-beneficiaries for the project. But then we have a range of other partners, affiliated and associated partners. You can see the logos on your left-hand side and your right-hand side. I would like to give a special shout out to ESSA, the European Student Association for Cultural Heritage. We'll hear from ESSA, from our colleague Jasna. We have many other partners. I also have a slide dedicated to our regional hubs. This is coming up now. So we have established what we call the regional hubs. Because we operate very much on the ground, this is not a project run in Brussels for Brussels institutions. We have and we will continue to develop more regional hubs with some of our members. So we've partnered so far with municipalities and civil society organizations to target either specific areas or themes. And so far we've got four hubs. So the first one has been, I think, the Krakow hub, if I'm not mistaken. And the goal here is to decentralize our work, to widen our outreach and impact at a more local level. So the Athens hub for South and Eastern Europe, it more or less operates in the Mediterranean, and it is hosted by Elliniki Eteria, ELET, with the support of the municipality of Athens. We also have the Krakow hub, as I mentioned, for Central and Eastern Europe, so it operates in that region. And that's the organization Society of Friends of Krakow History and Heritage, with the support again of the municipality of Krakow. We've also established a hub in Lisbon. The Lisbon hub is operating in Western Europe, so it covers that region, and it is hosted by Centro Nacional de Cultura. And the most recent hub we've added to our family of hubs is the Nicosia hub in Cyprus. This will help us further expand our work in the Mediterranean and the Middle East. So let's talk a little bit about our goals. So through our activities, the hub, we aim at becoming a permanent platform for networking and cooperation. We're doing networking today, a lot of it. I saw people in the chat exchanging emails, LinkedIn profiles and such. We're also here for training and capacity building. and also advocacy. We were here to advocate for better and more consistent policies for cultural heritage across the EU, and from the local to the international level, to further raise also the capacity of the heritage ecosystem through synergies. So we hope very much that you will collaborate with one another through these webinars, and to support the elaboration of evidence-driven heritage policies. Now, I would like you to keep the word permanent here, because I talked about a permanent platform. The hub is here to stay. We would like it very much to stay. It starts as a pilot project, and then it may continue in another, in a project-like fashion for another 2 years, but it can become a permanent platform, a fixture. And we're very much working with the Parliament and the Commission to make that happen. It will become a preparatory action if it all goes well. But as I said, more on that in 2025. Now let's talk about the main framework of the hub, the conceptual framework that we operate with. I asked you earlier to keep in mind 3 adjectives: sustainable, digital, and inclusive. This is the triple transformation concept, and the pillars, they constitute the pillars of our work. So basically, this is the core feature of the hub. We have this overarching framework that basically engulfs everything we do. So let's talk about the green transformation. I'm sure you've been in one of the breakout rooms earlier. You have seen that these 3 pillars are there when we were taking notes on the Miro board. The pillar emphasizes, the green pillar, for example, emphasizes using cultural heritage to advance environmental sustainability. And it also advocates for the inclusion of cultural heritage in climate policies, because heritage can be part of the solution against climate change. The digital transformation, here the focus is on embracing digital tools and technologies to enhance the sustainability, preservation, and promotion of cultural heritage. We heard this morning about 3D digitization, about tech sovereignty, and also the challenges and opportunities brought about by artificial intelligence. And also the last, but not least, the digital pillar, the pillar on social transformation. This dimension seeks to harness cultural heritage to foster cohesion, inclusion, and well-being. And you should think of activities such as collaborative practices, exchange of knowledge on the ground, and so many others. So through cross-sectoral collaboration, policy innovation, and grassroots engagement, the hub aims to position heritage as a catalyst to address challenges, European challenges mostly. Now I'll take you to more specific activities that we've been doing. Let's see. So every year we meet and we have a very specific theme that we discuss. So when we launched in May 2023, we thought that the first annual event that we would host would be dedicated on the green pillar. So we had the first hub forum in Venice in September, so not many months after we launched. And there, that was the first in-person forum that brought everyone together. And we focused on what we call the culture-based climate action. So the outcomes, the key outcome of that event was the global call to action to put culture and heritage at the heart of climate action. And that was a call that was predominantly geared to COP28, which was last year in Dubai. And the call was basically signed by 2,000 people. And by now, more than 30 countries have also endorsed it. We can also share, I think, the call in the chat. And even the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Gutierrez, has sent a letter back then in support of the call, because there is an urgent need to harness culture and heritage in the fight against climate change. So the Global Call has been a landmark initiative launched basically by the Climate Heritage Network, of which Europa Nostra is a partner. And we have been highlighting the critical role that culture and heritage play in addressing climate change. So this goal, you can see that it aligns with the broader goal we have in the hub to integrate cultural considerations into global climate strategies. Now, let's talk about the call. So the call led to the launch of a group of friends, the Group of Friends of Culture-Based Climate Action. This is the concept that we've been working with. And the Group of Friends is basically an informal advocacy bloc comprised of countries and civil society organizations such as Europa Nostra, ICOMOS, Europeana, and many, many others. And the goal of this group is to advocate for the inclusion of heritage in climate action. And why is this group important? Because it underscores how cultural heritage can be both vulnerable to climate change impacts, but it can also be a powerful tool for adaptation and mitigation. For instance, if you think about coastal heritage sites, they face significant threats as a result of rising sea levels, but traditional construction methods can offer solutions for modern flood management. The group met for the first time in COP28 in Dubai. That was last year, just 1 month after the launch of the global call. And the second ministerial meeting took place this year at COP in Azerbaijan. And that was held a couple of weeks ago on 15 November. We're waiting to hear the outcome of COP talks. It has been a very difficult meeting, I hear. We have actively in this meeting, we have actively sought to include in the final conclusions of the event a request to hold a workshop related to culture and cultural heritage. And we think that the deliberations of such a workshop will form the basis for a more significant decision to be made in COP in Brazil next year. So it's important to keep in mind that there is this line of events that need to take place in order to get really robust outcomes from COP. So really we want a decision this year to take place in COP in Azerbaijan for something more significant to happen in COP next year in Brazil. Oops, sorry. I think I went too fast. Now, I'll give the floor to my colleague Christy, and then I'll come back on screen in a bit. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? And can you see me?
Yes, we hear you and see you.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today and for your interest in the Hub. So I'm Christy Drummond. I'm Communications Manager at Europa Nostra, and I'm also leading the communication activities of the European Heritage Hub. So first, I wanted to continue to introduce you to some other events of the Hub after the first forum, which Dimitra just mentioned, events that took place both online and offline. So some of you might know, but we're just back from Bucharest from a really interesting second Hub forum organised in partnership with our much valued partner, Europeana. And we do have a lot to cover today, so I will just briefly take you through some of the main points and outcomes from the forum. So as you can see here on the slide, it was held in Bucharest on the 7th of October this year at the National Museum of Art of Romania. The forum was joined by digital and heritage experts, policymakers, and civil society. And among the highlights, it also included a strong message of support to the Hub from the European Parliament's Vice President, Sabine Verheyen. In terms of the topic, so each in-person forum aligns with a strand of the triple transformation. So in this case, it was a digital transition. However, we always ensure that each overarching topic is closely interconnected with the other two strands, so social and green. Along these lines, in Bucharest, some of the issues we explored were human-centered and ethical standards in AI, as well as environmental impacts of digitalization, really kind of painting a picture of how our digital future could and should look like, with heritage at the center, of course. So apart from inspiring speeches and panel discussions, such as you can see here, our audience and the stage, we also had a chance to kind of see what all this looks like in practice. Let me see if I can change my slide. I'm not sure I can switch the slides for some reason. I don't think I have remote request control.
No. Dimitra.
No, now I have it.
Okay.
Perfect. Great. Sorry about that. So we had this interactive fair as part of the forum in which participants could explore during breaks. And the fair showcased, I think it was 7 projects or 8 projects that are at the intersection of digital heritage and social and green transformation. So you can see them on the screen here. And I've also included some photos. Oh, sorry, that went too fast. But I still need to learn how to control these slides. So you can see some photos here. We had quite a diverse range of projects, from AI platforms for cultural heritage to 3D and XR applications that promote sustainable tourism or accessibility for blind persons, for example. You can also see here kind of what the space looked like. That's where the fair was. And then the main outcome of the forum was the call to action, championing a responsible digital transition for and with cultural heritage. So the call outlines 5 key priorities, which are summarized here on screen, for cultural heritage in the context of digital transformation. I won't go into detail here because we've got quite a lot to cover, but this is of great importance, of course, with the newly elected EU institutions. So I really encourage you to take some time to read through the call and also share it among your networks. As they say, the more the merrier, and if we all come together, our voice will be louder. So I'm not sure if maybe Dimitra can share the link to the call in the chat so you can have a proper look and read through it. But yes, and we can also speak about it, of course, in the questions, of course. So my next slide, if I can move slides. Yes, okay. So now also talking about voices, my next point is on the Hub's Heritage Dialogues webinar series. So within the Hub, we really recognize as well the importance of making our events accessible to everyone, and this is why we also have a series of events online so more people can join. Some of you might have actually joined the second Heritage Dialogues earlier this morning, which was also hosted as part of the Europeana Projects Week. So basically, each webinar in this series addresses one of the 5 pillars of the European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage, with the 6 focusing on EU neighbouring countries, which is a main focus region for the Hub. But my colleague Dimitra will go more into detail there in a bit. So today, as you might know, we hosted the second Heritage Dialogues, which was titled Cultural Heritage for a Regenerative Digital Transition in EU neighbouring countries. Then the previous Heritage Dialogues was on cultural heritage for an inclusive and democratic Europe, which was very closely linked to the EU elections in June. And the next one will focus on cultural heritage in the green transition, which is also quite timely following COP, as Dimitra just mentioned. And the next Heritage Dialogues on green transition is planned to take place around the kind of mid-December. And then just very, very briefly on the format of these dialogues. So basically we have a keynote address at the beginning and a panel discussion to kind of get participants thinking. And then we all go into breakout rooms for around 45 minutes to discuss specific issues, really kind of giving room for an engaging dialogue. So if you did join this morning, I really hope you found it interesting and useful and that we can see you at the next one. What next? So yes, the other webinar series that I wanted to speak about today is sharing local stories. But before I go into detail, I'll take a step back and kind of explain where these local stories we're sharing actually come from. So a year ago, we launched a call aimed at identifying local heritage practices that advance the famous triple transformation that Dimitra already referred to at the beginning of the presentation. So as you can see on screen, 10 practices were selected from among 40 high quality applications received among 33 cities and regions across Europe. This initiative, the kind of sharing local stories and its different activities, is led by our partner Eurocities, which is another co-beneficiary of the Hub. So basically, to showcase these selected and non-selected practices, what we did is set up firstly the Sharing Local Stories webinar. So there are, wait, I'll just move to the next slide. Yes. So there are 4 webinars in this series in total. 2 have already taken place, which were focused on the social and the digital transformation. And there are still another 2 to take place on green and then social once again. So these are really nice events, which I really encourage you to join. It gives very practical and tangible examples of how culture and heritage can improve the places we live in, creating a more sustainable and inclusive future for all. And I personally find them very inspiring. But we also sometimes step out of the screen now and again and organise in-person peer learning visits under the framework of the Hub, also led by our partner Eurocities. So out of these, let me just go to the next slide. Yes, so out of these 10 local practices I've mentioned, 3 cities are selected to host a peer learning visit with a maximum of 20 participants, each coming from a different city across Europe. So the first one was organised in Glasgow, where we had the chance to explore the refurbishment of one of the city's most important museums, the Borough Collection, and as well as the ongoing refurbishment of an old stables and sawmill in Pollock Country Park. So it's a really fascinating project that has inclusivity, innovation and sustainability at its core, in line with the Hub's objectives. So I won't go into more details here, but I do recommend you have a look on our website to read a bit more about it. And then the second one took place in Nantes last month, and Nantes was selected for their a digital platform called Nantes Patrimonia, which gives access and allows citizens to directly share stories, images and videos and so on about the city's heritage. So it creates this really participatory approach that helps reconstruct a bit the local history, really zooming in into neighbourhoods and so on, which maybe isn't the typical information you find in history books. So here are some stories, some photos of the visits. Here you can see, of course, it was raining in Glasgow. And here are some from Nantes as well. So anyway, there are really just so many fantastic initiatives out there, and the objective of the Hub is to really share these local examples and enable stakeholders to learn from each other. A third peer learning visit will be announced soon. Is planned to take place in spring next year, most likely in an EU neighbouring country. So make sure to keep an eye out on the Hub website, subscribe to our newsletter and so on, just to find out when it will be, along with the upcoming webinars. And now I'll hand back to Dimitra, who's going to speak a bit more about the Hub activities in EU neighbouring countries.
Thank you, Christy. So as we said at the start, we are really a pan-European project. We operate in either EU countries, but also in wider Europe. That means that we covered Ukraine, Moldova, what we call the Caucasus region, that includes Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and the Western Balkans. These are 6 countries in the Balkans that are not part of the European Union family yet, but they are on the road to accession. And also in the morning, if you've been with us, you may have heard that, for example, Serbia, despite not being an EU country, they're a very prolific contributor to Europeana Pro. So, with Albania and North Macedonia as well, they have established links, and Europeana are now trying to reach out to Montenegro and Kosovo and Bosnia. So it's, we are working with our partners. So as part of the Hub, hang on, I'm sorry, you can hear me, right? So we're trying to mainstream the participation and input of heritage stakeholders from these 11 countries in everything we do. So this webinar is dedicated to neighboring countries. And let's see more specifically what we've done. Next slide. I'm sorry, I think I've gone too far again. Right, so we've already had a civil society meeting in Athens, and I can share with you the link to that a little later. We've also organized the Heritage Dialogue today, and we're planning to organize a Hub, this annual event that I mentioned earlier, a Hub forum in Montenegro, and that will be in spring 2025. A peer learning visit, you've heard about that from Christy. We're trying to organize one again in spring 2025 in one of the countries, maybe Western Balkans, but we'll see. And there is going to be a publication that is a policy paper that is going to be region focused, and policy recommendations will also apply and respond and address challenges that neighboring countries face as well. So there is a policy paper coming up as well. Now, more concretely, what we've done also in terms of funding, you have heard from our Secretary General that there has been a small grant scheme. We're very proud of that. With the support of Alif Foundation, we have been able to publish a call in January 2024, earlier this year. And the call was open to civil society organizations based in these 11 countries that I mentioned. Now, we've had so many project applications, more than 600, but only 14 were selected in the end. I can also share with you the press release so you can see who has been selected. But yeah, so far the projects focus on capacity building for civil society, enhancing the key role of cultural heritage for the triple transformation, and heritage-led activities contributing to peace building and reconciliation. So we wanted this to be a flexible funding instrument for heritage-led projects. And even with little money, you can see that our grants were quite small, from 2,000 up to 50,000 euros. We believe that we've made an impact in the local communities, and we will fight for more resources, especially if the project is continued, and it is looking like it will. We think that the small grant scheme was a very successful initiative, and we intend to replicate it again and make it bigger. Now, moving on, how you can get involved in the hub.
Perfect. I'll just request access again. Okay, let's see. I hope this is working. Oh, I think no, I do. Sorry. Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, so as Dimitri said, now we're going to see a bit how you can get involved in all these activities that we're referring to. So one of the first steps would be to subscribe to the Hub community. So what is the Hub community? So there are two types. First, we have the community of practice for stakeholders that are already participating or working in the field of heritage. So most likely most of the people in this group today. And then the community of interest for stakeholders who are not yet involved in heritage, but who have an interest to follow the activities of the Hub. So about a bit the benefits of being part of this community. So it's a way to stay up to date with the Hub's initiatives, joining its events, and also throughout the project, the community is and will be brought in to participate in joint campaigns and activities with the Hub. So overall, it's a really important networking aspect of the project. And then here on my slide, you'll see that I refer to something called the social forum. So the social forum, if I can go to the next slide. Yeah, so the social forum is basically a dedicated social media platform, providing a virtual space for the heritage community to connect. It's actually really similar to Facebook in the way it works and looks, with the exception that only people involved in heritage or with an interest will join, probably because content will exclusively focuses on issues related either directly or indirectly to culture and cultural heritage. So I'll just go into the next slide here, but the QR is also there, but just so you can see what it looks like. So in terms of kind of functionalities and so on, users can create a profile, upload content to their feed, very similar to Facebook, as I said, comment on threads, connect with their peers, and also send direct messages. And then one of the most interesting features of the social forum are the thematic groups, which are mainly based on region or expertise. So once you join a group, you can participate in discussions, and things posted will also come up in your timeline, and you should also receive email notifications and so on. And in terms of content, the groups should go from being a space just to launch reflections or news and heritage or in culture, but also to share information on specific events or opportunities that you might be hosting, or that you might be aware of, that could be relevant to the community. So there's already a group on digital transformation, as you can see here on the screen. And we really encourage you to sign up and join the discussions. It's really quick and easy. And yeah, it would be great to see you there and to continue the discussion there. And then when speaking about sharing, I also wanted to, just in the next slide, showcase how you can submit events or open calls that you're organizing or are aware of to the Hub website. So as you can see here on the slide, there's the event section where we aim to highlight events happening all across the sector in Europe and online. And anyone can submit their event via provided form, and then the team assesses it and uploads it to the website. And then we also have a funding and open call section, which isn't on the screen here, but it's very similar. And then last but not least, another place where you can access and share content on heritage is the Heritage Library, which is on my next slide. So for those not as familiar with the Hub, along with the social forum, the Hub has two digital tools, which are the Policy Monitor and the Heritage Library. First of all, I thought it would be good to maybe kind of quickly introduce a bit the difference between these two tools to avoid confusions. So the Policy Monitor maps out actual policies and legislations impacting heritage across Europe at local, regional, national, and EU level. but I will let Dimitra go into more detail here in a minute. Whereas a heritage library, which I'm referring to, is a digital repository of heritage-related materials offering a vast collection of resources. So this isn't only limited to policy and academic content. So it does include research papers, articles, and policy papers, but you could also find case studies, guidelines, and even audiovisual content such as videos and podcasts. You can log in and have a look after the session, but just to kind of briefly explain how it works. So if I go on to the next slide here, yes, this might help kind of visualize it. Sorry. So the library has quite an advanced search system where you can type keywords into it, and but it also offers kind of filters such as topic, document type, language, source, year of publication, and location. So for example, this would allow us to look for a case study maybe in Spain on energy efficiency in museums, for example, published between, let's say, 2019 and 2023. So our main objective with this library is to really kind of centralize all heritage content in one place, offering users a curated selection of content which has been assessed and uploaded by expert organizations, the partners of the Hub and other external contributors. And it also kind of provides a short description under each resource to assess users if it will be useful or not, along with a recommended reading section and so on, as you can see here under related documents. And then another aspect that distinguishes this platform from others is its connection to the triple transformation. So for instance, for content to be eligible for upload to the Hub, it has to be relevant to one of the 5 pillars in the European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage, which I mentioned earlier. And above all, we really wanted to have kind of a really user-friendly platform offering a broad selection of content and making this kind of a go-to platform for heritage content. And I mean, this can only be done if we all join forces. So today I really wanted, and just on my next slide, yes, I wanted to encourage you to submit your own content to the library. The same as with the event section and the open calls. There's a dedicated form that can be found on the landing page of the library for this purpose. And kind of in terms of benefits, so apart from helping kind of contribute to this collection, but it also gives greater visibility to your work, because select content can be featured in the Hub's monthly Heritage Library Top Picks roundup, as well as in our bi-monthly newsletter. And then additionally, contributors may be invited to take part in an interview series of the Hub website, and it's just kind of a way of getting the work kind of out there. So anyway, lots to do, lots to look through, and lots to contribute to. But I'll hand back to Dimitra now to speak a bit more about the Policy Monitor and some upcoming opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy. Right, and we're close to the end. Right before the end, I would like to talk to you about the Policy Monitor. As Europa Nostra's policy manager, I'm really interested in this tool that we are developing through the Hub. So let me share the link in the chat for you to access. So this is basically an online interactive database that we're building to we have been building in the past year with our partners. And what it does is that it collects legislation, heritage-related legislation across the EU. So we have basically an interactive map of Europe, wider EU, and we're trying to collect key legislation from each country. So far, we have collected more than 900 policies. By the end of the project in 6 months' time, we estimate that we will have collected over 1,000. And we want to group them in, specific themes and libraries, so we can do analysis. And we can then also do recommendations. As part of the Policy Monitor, we have in fact scheduled 5 policy papers to be delivered to the European Commission at the end of the project, and they will use insights from this Policy Monitor database. We've also scheduled 5 quarterly reviews. We've done 3 so far, but I will share with you the second one, which is it's dedicated on the digital transition, and our partner Europeana did that, so it's very relevant to the themes that we have been discussing today. So we have been amassing all this legislation, and the policy reviews are our ways of making sense of what we have collected. So we're going in there, looking into what we have collected and doing some analysis, cross-country analysis sometimes. Let's see. And this is how the policy monitor looks like. As I said, it's a map. And how you can get involved. So upcoming opportunities, Christy mentioned the peer learning visits. They are coming up in early 2025. We've already had one in Glasgow, in Nantes. More are to come. Please check our website. We also have the Sharing Local Stories webinars. They're online. You can access them from wherever you are. And then the Heritage Dialogues, the one that we had just today, this morning. Again, a webinar series. You can access it online. We have 4 online events. We're having the next one, the third one in December, mid-December, probably the 16th, but you'll know. We'll send out newsletter and it will be on our website. And our annual event, the Hub Forum in spring 2025, it will take place in Montenegro. And we have more educational study visits coming up. So you can get involved if you follow us on social media. We put everything out there. Christy, as our comms manager, is very much on top of her game. So if you really want to connect, just follow us on X or Instagram or LinkedIn. Now, before the end, I would like to hand over to my colleague Jasna from the European Student Association for Cultural Heritage for her part of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you, Dimitra and Christy, for explaining everything that we're doing in the hub. So I guess that my part of the presentation will be shorter because I will not go through any of these tools or initiatives or calls that have already been mentioned, in order to give you more time maybe for a particular question or inquiries. What I would like to emphasize is that even though like 2018 was the year of cultural heritage, 2022 was the year of youth in European Union. So we wanted also from the beginning to include a whole youth dimension of the project. It is similar as with 11 neighboring countries, in the sense that we want to mainstream everything that has been doing in the hub, that has been done or will be done, including the youth. And by youth, we are both referring to students from their bachelor's, master's, or PhD programs, as well as young practitioners, professionals in the field of cultural heritage, researchers, community managers, etc. And we have been doing that. Do I have the control request? I'm requesting, yeah? Okay. Can I now? Yes. We are doing that by partnering ESAG and Hispania Nostra. ESAG is a European Student Association for Cultural Heritage. However, it is a youth-led network that is still not registered, and therefore we needed to a bit of a stronger partner with us. And Hispania Nostra was very kind to offer their logistical administrative support in this. So it is Youth Hub that has been co-coordinated by these two members of the consortium. And we like to think of us as transversal hubs. So you've heard of the regional hubs, but our idea is that youth should be and can contribute to multiple levels of the work of the hub, and therefore we are a transversal one. We are present in the activities of the local hubs, of the regional hubs, but as well as in the activities of our main partners and co-beneficiaries, as this is one of the occasions. And what we are doing as well is we are trying to create synergies all over Europe. So our idea and our objective is also to create a wider network of youth-led initiatives or youth-oriented initiatives in the domain of cultural heritage, particularly focusing on, as Dimitra said, the triple transformation, so green, digital, and social. But we are also very proud to to try to expand and to get to know others, as we believe that unity makes us stronger. As you can see, we have started with around 500 students and young heritage professionals that are either ESAG or Europa Nostra youth members. and the way that we are contributing to this European Heritage Hub. As I see, it's kind of like a two-way format. First, we have our own youth initiatives. One of those was a peer-to-peer event that was a digital meeting for young people to share their stories, but also to talk about the situation in the sector and how they see their professional life going ahead, because we were very much interested in shedding more light on the youth participation in the sector, not just as to find jobs or to promote inclusivity, but as we strongly believe that this is a way to make a sector more resilient and future oriented. So we are trying our best to be as proactive and contribute to all the initiatives they're already there. Another is by launching the spin-off events of the position paper. Position paper is a document that predates European Heritage Hub, but we are very much looking into implementing thank you, Dimitra, for sharing that we are implementing all those ideas within the Hub family, and I hope that you will be also interested in contacting us and helping us spread the word about this. The other part of our work is, as I said, trying to include young professionals to talk about the relevant topics that our other partners developing. You can see here that we were in Venice. I'm missing the photo of Bucharest, but we were there as well. We had our young members talk about not youth in the heritage sector, which is a very important topic, as I previously mentioned, but we're also wanting to showcase that they can talk about different topics as a professionals themselves. So we had one talking in the Hub event, for instance, on the digital. We had two very active youth members talking last year in Venice about the green transition in cultural heritage. We also are part of Agora, that is being organized by Europa Nostra, and several regional events. Here you can see one that took place last summer in Greece, the one in the middle. And finally, the third photo is the spreading word about the Hub to other youth networks, to other youth initiatives and groups that might not be aware that by joining forces, we can have a little bit of a stronger voice in all of this that's happening. I will just reassure you that we are an open forum, in a sense that please contact us. I've put that you can become ESAH member. You can also become Europa Nostra youth member. Both are free of charge. You can also join community of practice and community of interest, create a social forum, or submit an item for the Heritage Library. I wanted to conclude by, I don't know if I have, yeah, thank you. But before that, I wanted to conclude with a very relevant new development that's been going on, and Dimitra is following that quite closely. The linkage that has been put between youth and cultural heritage within the new European Commission's agenda. So I think that for us and for the Hub, this is just a proof that we did it right from the beginning by including all of these topics and by including young people into discussion, but also into implementation of what has been discussed. And I would like to invite you to follow us, but also reach out to us, because I think that the following period will be very interesting for the youth involvement in cultural heritage, and we are very much looking forward to collaboration with all of you. And with that, I will conclude. If there is way for this PPT to be shared, my email is at the beginning, but I will also put it in the chat just in case. And I've done it, I think, so we can have the 15 minutes for the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jasna, and also Christy and Dimitra, for this insightful presentation, which clearly highlights the collaborative work that we are undertaking within the Hub. I think there are already some questions in the chat, and I've seen you have been also addressing them. So I would now like to ask our audience if you would like to ask colleagues a question. I see there are quite some questions around the community of practice and the community of interest. So maybe, Christy, if you would like to elaborate a bit on that. I also see a couple of questions about non-EU participation in the project. So I kindly ask Europa Nostra colleagues to address this also by taking the floor and invite the rest of participants to continue sharing questions and comments. We still have some time for discussion, which is great.
Perfect, great. Thank you, Lorena. So yes, indeed, there were some questions in the chat on the kind of regional restrictions to join in the community. So we don't have any as such for people to sign up. I mean, of course, the kind of focuses of our work is on Europe, the broader Europe, but there are no restriction for anybody to join outside of Europe as well. I mean, we're very much in favor of establishing as many collaborations as possible, and we recognize the value of having as many and as a diverse audience as part of our community. I'm not sure if Dimitra, you want to add anything else? Did I cover everything in the chat? Was it?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, as we've said, that we have the regional hubs as well, and we're trying to basically do work on the ground with local stakeholders, and we have the Nicosia hub for the Middle East, and that covers Turkey, it covers also the UAE. So please don't think that because we're an EU-funded project that we're not really interested in reaching out and connecting with colleagues outside that sphere.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to the questions. Isra, do you want to take the floor and share your question with the rest of the group? There's a lot going on in the chat, so I think that could be beneficial for everyone. And maybe Dimitra, Christy, you can also say a couple of words of the future plans also in this particular region. I know there have been some ongoing discussions to reach also the Euro-Mediterranean North Africa region. So I think that could also be of interest.
Yeah, so we'll see how the next call for this project will look like. So basically, it's just a little bit about the mechanics of how we apply for funding and then get funding. So as I said at the very, very start, this is a project that was funded by the Parliament initially, but it was sent to the Commission so they can create the call and the conditions that always need to be an application and a project plan, a budget. So we expect that the same will happen this time. And there have been conversations, as Lorena said, about expanding the geographical coverage. Nothing is certain yet. We have to wait for that call, but we know that the Commission is very much interested in neighboring countries and not just Ukraine, Moldova, and Caucasus or the Western Balkans, but Turkey or the Euro-Mediterranean region, North Africa is also part of another package of allies that the EU is constantly working with and towards establishing relationships. So it wouldn't be surprising to see that we may create a bridge there, but we have to wait to see what the Commission says. We know they're interested, and we know we also want to make bridges with other territories.
Thank you very much for that, Dimitra. Do we have questions, comments?
Actually, Lorena, kind of reversing a bit the roles here, but now that we're here and we have 5 minutes to spare, I was eager to hear if anyone had any. So we're always constantly kind of reviewing our our digital tools and so on. And I did want to hear if anyone had any particular kind of like ideas or input or feedback on what they would find, for example, the social forum useful for, and the same goes for the other digital tools, what they would like to see there, what would make them kind of what would make these as useful as possible for the user. So if anyone has any ideas, any suggestions, we would also be very free to welcome them, and also available if there are more questions, of course, but just making the most of these last few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, Christy. Indeed, I think it's important also to hear your feedback as participants, users, and beneficiaries of these tools. I can only see very positive comments, thanking you for the presentation and for the event as a whole. So if there are no more questions or comments, then we will conclude this session. Thank you again, Christy, Jasna, and Dimitra for being with us. Can I have the slide deck back on screen, please? Yes, there we go. So we are approaching the end of today's program. So yeah, just want to take a moment again before closing the day of the Heritage Horizons Europeana Project Week to, of course, thank all of you for your participation, speakers, moderators, participants, for your active contributions. Special thanks also to Europa Nostra and our hub partners for the excellent cooperation in organizing today's session. And of course, to my Europeana Foundation colleagues for ensuring this event runs smoothly, and it was an enriching experience for everyone. So before closing, I would just like to share with you very briefly my 3 main takeaways from the day. Sharing the slides. Oh, yeah, there we are. So throughout the day, I think something that we kept on listening about the importance and the relevance of collaboration, partnerships, and networks. So we started with a single project experience mentioned by Valentin Charles from the Europeana Foundation, bringing together large and small organizations, or bringing together EU and neighboring countries, and leveraging on different expertises ranging from digital preservation to innovation, digital innovation, storytelling, education, and so on. But also at the macro level, how collaboration and partnerships can generate new ideas, foster innovation, and in some contexts, notably in conflict-stricken areas, we heard that from Ule, it's also a pathway to build peace and to generate dialogue. So we also heard from Sophie Thijs on behalf of the Europeana Initiative how we can see ourselves as a network of networks, and how a network node can spark collaboration and really serve as a multiplier and to replicate these experiences. And I think this is a very clear example with the European Heritage Hub and its regional nodes, but also the Europeana ecosystem and the data space. Second message, which for me was one of the interesting takeaways of today, is the changing EU policy landscape, of course. So we discussed digital transition and the triple transition in the light of a new commission and changing policy priorities. So we discuss how our field, cultural heritage and digital cultural heritage in particular, can really support many priorities of the new commission, from competitiveness to advancing technological sovereignty, as highlighted by Fulgencio, broadening access to culture for diverse audiences and younger generations, as called for by the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. And of course, through the Heritage Dialogue, we also saw how it can strengthen international cooperation between the EU and its partners, notably based on shared cultural values. And we also touched upon how to leverage cultural heritage as a resource to inspire sustainable practices and climate action. And my third takeaway is related to digital transformation in itself and digital change. So we saw that digital transformation is context specific, and I think this was very clear in particular through the geographical lenses of the Heritage Dialogues. And how it's also evolving throughout time. So today is really encompassing considerations like environmental responsibility or social responsibility. We heard from upholding ethical values when using advanced technology and AI, or using renewable energy for servers, for instance. And quoting Sofita again, I really liked how she put it. So there is no such thing as a small change. A small breakout through today can catalyze a heritage revolution tomorrow. So yes, we of course discussed challenges, many of them cost of access to technology, lack of digital skills, concentration of power in the digital landscape, lack of funding. But we also and mainly addressed digital as a tool, so and facilitator to increase national and international exposure of collections, to create a global audience, to engage with audiences in a different and more interactive way, or to enhance preservation, for instance, through 3D. So to put it in the words of Hule from TUMO, from Armenia, digital, instead of speaking of a digital divide, we are speaking about a digital bridge. So I really like that quote as well. So these were my 3 messages. Of course, I'm not trying to summarize the rich discussions of the day, but I think that's what will stay with me from today. And I really hope you enjoyed the program as much as we did. I just want to remind you that before closing the Zoom session, you will see a pop-up survey. So please take a couple of minutes to share with us if this event met your expectations, or if you have any feedback to share. So that's all from my side. Sorry. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again. I invite you to join the rest of the Europeana Program Week. Tomorrow we will be discussing 3D. But for today, I warmly invite you to stay online with us and join us for a networking session where you can meet and greet colleagues from all across Europe. So you will have the chance to connect and exchange. My colleagues will take care of that. So you will be automatically moved to another room where you will have 5 minutes to meet somebody. And then we will change you to another room so that you can meet another person. And so you don't need to do anything at this stage, just be open, ready to share and enjoy the conversation. So thank you very much. And we will see you again tomorrow. Please stay online for the meet and greet. Thank you very much.